Family disowned me 8 years ago for what I did to my twin. After I discovered he's been sleeping with my girlfriend, now invites me to Xmas out of the blue. Then I learned why. Hey Reddit. So my family completely cut me off 8 years ago because I exposed my twin brother for sleeping with my girlfriend. Now they're blowing up my phone begging me to come to Christmas dinner. Took me a while to figure out why. Spoiler alert, it wasn't because they missed me. I'm Jake, 31 now. My twin brother is Ethan. Growing up, we looked identical, but that's where the similarities ended. I was the responsible one. He was the charismatic one. I studied. He partied. I worked. He charmed his way through life. Our parents thought he walked on water while I was just there. The setup started back when we were 23. I'd been dating this girl Amanda for 3 years. Met her freshman year of college, and she was perfect. Smart, funny, ambitious. We had plans. Real plans. Moving to Portland together after graduation. Getting engaged. The whole future mapped out. I was working full-time at an engineering firm while finishing my degree at night. Exhausted constantly, but building something real. Amanda was finishing her marketing degree and working part-time at this boutique downtown. She'd come over to my apartment most nights. We'd cook dinner together, talk about our days. Normal couple stuff. The kind of relationship where you just know this is it, you know. Ethan was doing his usual thing. No real job, living with our parents rent-free, claiming he was figuring himself out while working occasional bartending gigs. He'd always been good at talking his way into and out of situations. Parents ate it up. Mom would actually defend his unemployment by saying he was finding his passion, while I was just settling for stability. That year, Amanda started mentioning Ethan more. At first, it didn't bother me. They'd run into each other at family dinners. She'd mention funny things he said. Whatever. He was my brother. She was my girlfriend. Of course they'd interact. But then it got weird. She'd bring him up constantly. Ethan said this about her major. Ethan recommended this show. Ethan thinks she should apply to this company. I figured maybe she just wanted to bond with my family since we were getting serious. The reality hit me on a random Tuesday in March. I came home early from work. My supervisor had sent everyone home because the office AC died, and it was getting unbearable inside. I texted Amanda to see if she wanted to grab lunch, but she didn't respond. Figured she was busy at the boutique. When I got to my apartment, her car was in the parking lot. Weird, since she said she had a shift that day. I walked up the stairs to my second-floor unit, already thinking maybe she'd gotten sick and decided to rest at my place. The door was unlocked, also weird. Amanda was paranoid about locking doors. I walked in and heard sounds from my bedroom. Not sick sounds. The kind of sounds that make your stomach drop into your shoes. I stood there for probably 10 seconds trying to convince myself I was wrong. That maybe she was watching something on her phone. That there was any explanation other than the obvious one. Then I heard Ethan laugh. That specific laugh he does when he thinks he's being clever. I don't remember walking to the bedroom. Don't remember opening the door. But suddenly I was standing there, looking at my girlfriend and my twin brother in my bed. In my actual bed. The bed I'd bought with money from my first engineering bonus. Amanda screamed and grabbed the sheets. Ethan just froze, this guilty look spreading across his face like spilled water. Nobody said anything for maybe 30 seconds. Just this horrible silence where we all stared at each other. Finally, I said, "How long?" Amanda started crying. "Jake, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean for this to..." "How long?" Ethan sat up. "Bro, listen, we didn't plan this. It just happened. Answer the question." He looked at Amanda. She looked at the floor. Nobody wanted to say it. 6 months. Amanda finally whispered. 6 months. Half a year. While I was working 60-hour weeks trying to build our future, they'd been doing this behind my back, in my apartment, probably on days I was at work or class. I remember feeling completely calm. That weird calm you get when something so massive happens that your brain just shuts down the emotion part to deal with logistics. "Get out," I said. "Both of you. Now." Amanda started apologizing again. Ethan actually had the nerve to say we should talk about this like adults. I repeated myself. "Get out." They left. I sat on my couch for probably 3 hours, just staring at the wall. Didn't cry, didn't yell, didn't break anything. Just sat there processing the fact that the two people I trusted most in the world had spent 6 months lying to my face. Around 9 p.m., my phone started blowing up. Text after text after text. First from Amanda, "Please let me explain. I never meant to hurt you. I was confused about my feelings, and Ethan was there and it just happened. I still care about you." Then from Ethan, "Bro, I know you're mad, but you need to understand. We didn't want to hurt you. We tried to fight it, but the connection between us was too strong. These things happen. That last line made me want to throw my phone through a window. These things happen. Like they'd accidentally bumped into each other and fallen into bed. Like 6 months of deliberate lying was just some cosmic accident nobody could have prevented. I didn't respond to either of them. Instead, I called my parents. Figured they should know what their golden boy had done. "Hey, sweetie," Mom answered. "What's up? I need to tell you something. Ethan's been sleeping with Amanda for the past 6 months." Silence. Then, "What?" I laid it out. Everything. Finding them in my apartment, the 6 months of lying, all of it. More silence. Then Dad got on the phone. "Now, son, I'm sure there's been some kind of misunderstanding. Have you talked to Ethan about this?" "Talk to him. I walked in on them in my bed, Dad." "Well, people make mistakes. Young people especially. I'm sure if you all sit down and discuss this maturely." "Are you serious right now?" "I'm saying that family is important. More important than some girl. You and Ethan need to work this out." "Work this out?" "He betrayed me for 6 months. Don't be dramatic, Jake. These things happen in relationships. The mature thing to do is forgive and move forward." I hung up, sat there staring at my phone. My dad had just told me to get over my brother sleeping with my girlfriend, because family is important. That night, I barely slept. Kept replaying everything in my head. Every time Amanda had canceled plans. Every time Ethan had stopped by when I wasn't home. Every family dinner where they'd sat across from me, knowing what they were doing. The next day, I changed my locks. Packed up everything Amanda had left at my place into a box. Drove to her apartment and left it outside her door with a note that said, "Lose my number." Then I blocked both of them on everything. Phone, social media, email, complete radio silence. 2 days later, my mom called. "Jake, we need to talk about this situation with Ethan and Amanda." "There's nothing to talk about." "Yes, there is. You're not speaking to your brother. The family is very upset about this." "The family is upset? About Ethan sleeping with my girlfriend?" "About you refusing to forgive him. He made a mistake. You're being stubborn. A mistake is forgetting someone's birthday. This was 6 months of deliberate betrayal. Don't be so dramatic. Amanda wasn't even your wife. You're acting like this is some huge tragedy, when really it's just young people figuring out their feelings. Are you hearing yourself right now? I'm hearing a son who's putting his pride above his family. Ethan feels terrible about this. He's been very upset. You need to be the bigger person and forgive him, so we can all move past this." "Ethan feels terrible? Poor Ethan. Must be so hard for him." Your sarcasm isn't helping. We're having a family dinner this Sunday. You and Ethan need to work this out like adults. "I'm not coming." "Yes, you are. This family doesn't fall apart because of some girl. This family fell apart when my brother betrayed me, and my parents decided to take his side. Tell Ethan I hope it was worth it." I hung up. Blocked Mom's number too. Sunday came and went. I didn't go to the dinner. Instead, I spent the day looking at apartments in Portland. My lease was up in 2 months, and I'd already been planning to move there with Amanda. Now I'd just go alone. Monday morning, my phone rang from a number I didn't recognize. I answered, thinking it might be work. It was Dad. He'd called from his office number. "Jake, your mother is beside herself. You missed family dinner. We need to resolve this." By resolve, you mean I need to pretend nothing happened? I mean, you need to stop being selfish. Ethan is your twin brother. You shared a womb with him. That bond is more important than some temporary relationship with a girl you probably would have broken up with anyway. How did you figure that? Because you're young. First relationships rarely last. But family is forever. So I should just forget that he spent 6 months lying to me? I'm saying you need perspective. Yes, Ethan made a poor choice. But you making this into some family crisis is equally wrong. He's apologized. Amanda's apologized. The mature thing is to accept that and move forward. He hasn't apologized to me. Nobody has actually apologized to me. Because you won't talk to anyone. You're being a child about this. I'm being a child? I'm the only one acting like this was wrong. You know what your problem is, Jake? You've always been rigid. Always had to have everything your way. Life doesn't work like that. People mess up. You need to learn flexibility. And you need to learn that sleeping with your brother's girlfriend isn't a forgivable mess up. If you don't come to next Sunday's dinner and apologize to Ethan for creating this drama, you're no longer welcome at family events. Your mother and I have discussed this. We're not letting you tear this family apart with your stubbornness. The ultimatum hung in the air. Apologize to Ethan for being mad that he betrayed me, or get cut off. Then I guess I'm no longer welcome at family events. Jake, I hung up. This time I blocked Dad's work number too. For the next week, extended family started calling. Aunts, uncles, cousins. Everyone had the same message. I was being unreasonable, Ethan had made a mistake, I needed to forgive him. Family was more important than pride. Not a single person asked how I was doing. Not one person acknowledged that what Ethan did was wrong. It was all about how I needed to get over it for the sake of family unity. My Uncle Dave actually said, "Is this really worth destroying the family over? So your brother made a mistake. Big deal. You think you're perfect?" I tried explaining it wasn't about perfection. It was about trust and betrayal, and 6 months of lying. But nobody wanted to hear it. The final straw came 3 weeks after I'd found them. My grandmother called. "Jacob, I'm very disappointed in you. Your brother made a little mistake and you're punishing the entire family for it. This isn't how I raised your father to raise his children. Grandma, Ethan slept with my girlfriend for 6 months. So? She wasn't your wife. You weren't married. They're young people with feelings. You need to grow up and stop acting like a spoiled brat." A spoiled brat? For being upset about being betrayed? Yes. Spoiled brats make everything about themselves. Ethan and Amanda have real feelings for each other. They're talking about getting serious. But you're making it impossible with your tantrum. My stomach dropped. They're getting serious? Yes. They want to date properly, but they feel guilty because of you. You need to give them your blessing so everyone can move on. Give them my blessing. Yes. Be a man about this. Tell Ethan you forgive him and you're happy for him and Amanda. Then everyone can stop walking on eggshells. I hung up without responding. Sat there in my apartment, alone, realizing my entire family had chosen Ethan's comfort over acknowledging what he'd done to me. That night, I got a group text from my extended family. The whole crew. Parents, siblings, aunts, uncles, cousins, grandparents. The message was from Dad. "Family meeting Sunday at 2 p.m. Everyone must attend. Jake, this is your final chance to apologize to Ethan and make this right. If you don't show up, you're choosing to remove yourself from this family." I stared at that text for probably an hour. The words, "final chance to apologize," kept running through my head. Apologize. Like I'd done something wrong. I typed out a response. "I'm not apologizing for being hurt by betrayal. If accepting that betrayal is the price of being in this family, then I guess I'm out." Hit send. Then I left the group chat. Within minutes, individual texts started flooding in. Mom crying about how I was choosing pride over family. Dad saying I'd regret this decision for the rest of my life. Ethan saying I was being immature and he'd expected better from me. That last one made me laugh. Ethan had expected better from me. The guy who'd spent 6 months sleeping with my girlfriend expected me to be more mature about it. I blocked everyone, every single family member who'd sent a message. Then I sat there in the silence of my apartment, realizing I'd just lost my entire family because I refused to pretend betrayal was acceptable. The next day, I called my boss and asked about the Portland office. They'd been trying to get me to transfer for months. "When can you start?" he asked. "As soon as possible." 2 weeks later, I packed everything I owned into a U-Haul and drove to Portland. Didn't tell anyone I was leaving. Didn't say goodbye. Just left. Started my new job at an engineering firm that specialized in renewable energy systems. Found a decent one-bedroom apartment in the Pearl District with exposed brick and huge windows. Started building a completely new life from scratch. The first few months were brutal. I'd wake up sometimes forgetting what happened, reaching for my phone to call Mom before remembering. Work became my escape. Within 6 months, I got promoted to senior engineer. Within a year, I was leading my own team. I started hitting the gym every morning at 5 a.m. because it gave me somewhere to go besides sitting alone thinking. The routine helped. Wake up, gym, work, home, repeat. Around month 3, I tried dating. Met a woman named Courtney through work. We went on a few dates until she asked about my family. I gave her the short version, and she got that look people get when they think you're the problem. "Well, family is important. Maybe you should reach out." That was our last date. I realized most people don't get it. They hear family estrangement and assume you're unreasonable. So I stopped mentioning it. The first Christmas was brutal. Stayed in my apartment, ordered Chinese food, fell asleep on the couch around 9 p.m. feeling empty. The second year was easier. I'd made friends by then. A guy named Ben from my gym invited me to his family's Christmas. I went, felt like an imposter, but at least I wasn't alone. By year 3, the pain had dulled to a background ache. I'd go weeks without thinking about my family. Year 4, I bought a house. Nothing huge, just a small 2-bedroom craftsman, but it was mine. Started volunteering at a community center teaching basic electrical skills to people trying to learn trades. One of them, a 19-year-old named Jordan, reminded me of myself. I started mentoring him properly. He ended up becoming one of my best friends. Year 5, I met someone serious. Nicole, a teacher. We dated for a year and a half. When I told her the full story, she just nodded. You know it's okay to still be hurt about it, right? It was 8 years ago. So, some wounds take time. We broke up eventually, because she wanted marriage and kids, and I wasn't ready. We stayed friends, though. Year 6, I started my own consulting business. By year 7, I was making enough that the Portland firm offered me a partnership track position. Regular hours, great money. I took it, bought a nice watch, celebrated alone at a fancy dinner. Felt proud, also lonely as hell, but mostly proud. Year 8 started like any other. Then, 2 weeks before Christmas, everything changed. The texts started coming in, numbers I didn't recognize, messages from people whose names I barely remembered, all variations of the same thing. 8 years. And then, out of nowhere, 2 weeks ago, my phone starts blowing up. Texts from numbers I didn't recognize, voicemails from family members I'd blocked years ago. Everyone suddenly desperate to reach me. The messages were all variations of the same thing. Hey Jake, it's been so long. We should catch up. Family's getting together for Christmas. Would love to see you there. No acknowledgement of the 8 years of silence. No apology for taking Ethan's side. Just casual, hey, let's catch up messages like nothing had happened. I ignored them all, but they kept coming. More insistent each day. Finally, one night at 11 p.m., my phone rang from an unknown number. Against my better judgment, I answered. Jake? It was Mom. Her voice sounded older, tired. How did you get this number? Your cousin Danielle gave it to me. Please don't hang up. I stayed silent. We're having Christmas dinner this year. The whole family. We'd really love for you to come. Why? Because you're family. We miss you. You've had 8 years to miss me. Why now? People change, Jake. We realize now that maybe we were too hard on you back then. We'd like to make amends. Too hard on me? You forced me to choose between accepting betrayal and being disowned. I chose being disowned. What exactly has changed? We're older now, wiser. We realize family is important. Life is short. We want you there for Christmas. Something in her tone felt off. Too practiced. Too casual for someone who hadn't spoken to their son in 8 years. Is Ethan going to be there? Pause. Yes, of course. It's a family dinner. Then I'm not interested. Jake, please. We're trying to extend an olive branch here. An olive branch would have been reaching out years ago. An olive branch would have been acknowledging what Ethan did was wrong. This isn't an olive branch. This is something else. What's that supposed to mean? It means I'm not stupid. You don't ignore someone for 8 years and then suddenly want them at Christmas unless you need something. So what is it? We don't need anything. We just want our son back. No, you want something. And when I figure out what it is, I'll decide whether to care. I hung up, blocked the number. The next day, more calls, more texts. Everyone in the family suddenly remembering I existed. My Aunt Janet left a voicemail saying she'd always regretted not standing up for me, and would I please give them another chance. My Uncle Ron sent a text saying he'd been thinking about me and realized how wrong they'd all been. My cousin Danielle called saying the family wasn't the same without me. All of it felt fake, rehearsed, like they'd all gotten together and decided who would say what to get me to show up. I called the one family member I'd stayed in touch with over the years. My cousin Riley, who'd moved to Seattle right after the whole mess went down, and had always thought the family's reaction was insane. Riley, what's going on? With what? The family. They're all suddenly trying to get me to come to Christmas. Long pause. Oh, yeah. I was wondering when they'd get around to calling you. You know something. Jake, I don't want to get involved. Riley, what's happening? Another pause. Then a sigh. Ethan's sick. My stomach dropped. Sick how? Kidney disease. He needs a transplant. They've been on the donor list for 8 months, but nothing's come up. And apparently none of the immediate family is a match. Everything suddenly made sense. The sudden reunion attempts. The "we've changed" speeches. The desperate phone calls. They didn't want me back. They wanted my kidney. They're really trying to get me to come to Christmas so they can ask me to donate a kidney? Not ask, ambush. They're planning to have everyone there to pressure you. Make you feel guilty about saying no. Classic family manipulation, but with medical stakes this time. I sat down. Are you serious? Dead serious. Mom told me the whole plan last week. They figured if they got you there in person, surrounded by family, you wouldn't be able to say no. Say, have they considered that maybe I don't want to give a kidney to the brother who betrayed me and the family who chose his side? They've considered that you're family, and family helps family. Their words, not mine. Even after 8 years of silence. Especially after 8 years of silence. They're desperate, Jake. Ethan's getting worse. They're pulling out every manipulation tactic they know. I thanked Riley and hung up. Sat there in my apartment, the same apartment I'd built my new life in, processing the fact that my family hadn't actually changed at all. They'd just found a new reason to need me. The texts continued, each one more desperate than the last. From Mom, "Please, Jake, we're a family. Families stick together." From Dad, "Whatever happened in the past, we can move forward. Your brother needs you." From Ethan himself, "I know I messed up 8 years ago. I was young and stupid. I've grown since then. I hope you can find it in your heart to forgive me." Not a single one of them mentioned the kidney. They were all dancing around it, waiting to spring the trap once I showed up. I thought about it for days, genuinely considered whether I could forgive what happened, whether 8 years was long enough to let go of the betrayal. But every time I started to soften, I remembered sitting on my couch that night, listening to my dad tell me to get over it. Remembered my grandmother telling me to give Ethan and Amanda my blessing. Remembered every single family member who'd chosen his comfort over acknowledging my pain. And now, they wanted my kidney. Yesterday, I got a call from a number with my hometown area code. I answered. "Jake, it's Ethan." His voice sounded weaker than I remembered. Tired. "What do you want?" I wanted to call personally, to apologize for what happened 8 years ago. I was wrong. I betrayed you in the worst possible way. I spent years trying to justify it to myself, but the truth is, I was selfish and I hurt you and I'm sorry. It sounded genuine. For a second, I almost believed him. "Did the family write that speech for you?" "What? No, I mean it." "Is this about the kidney?" Silence. Then, "How did you—" "It doesn't matter how I know. Is this about the kidney? I need your help, Jake. I'm dying. The doctors say without a transplant, I have maybe a year, maybe less. I know I don't deserve your help. I know I treated you terribly, but I'm begging you, please." So 8 years ago, when I needed my family to acknowledge that what you did was wrong, where were you? I know I messed up. If I could go back and change things, but you can't. You made your choice. The family made their choice. Now I'm making mine. So you're going to let me die because of something that happened 8 years ago? No. I'm going to live my life because 8 years ago, my family showed me exactly how much I meant to them. This isn't about revenge, Ethan. This is about self-preservation. Please, Jake. I'm your brother. Your twin. We were born together. And you destroyed that relationship when you slept with my girlfriend for 6 months and then let the family vilify me for being upset about it. You didn't just betray me once. You betrayed me repeatedly, and then you let everyone make me the bad guy for not accepting it. I was 23. I was stupid. You were old enough to know better. And every single day for 6 months, you woke up and chose to keep lying to me. That wasn't a mistake. That was a choice. So that's it? You're going to let me die? I'm not letting you do anything. You're dealing with the consequences of a medical condition that has nothing to do with me, just like I dealt with the consequences of your betrayal alone, without any family support. The family wants to make amends. We all do. If you come to Christmas, let me guess, everyone will be there. You'll make a big speech about family forgiveness. Then someone will mention the kidney situation. And suddenly, everyone will be looking at me like I'm the one hurting you. Classic manipulation. It's not manipulation, it's family. Family doesn't abandon someone for 8 years and then suddenly remember they exist when they need an organ. That's not family. That's opportunism. So you're just going to let our entire relationship end like this? Our relationship ended 8 years ago when you made your choices and the family made theirs. This is just me declining to resurrect it for medical convenience. I hung up. Blocked the number. Today, the texts have gotten more aggressive. Dad saying I'll regret this for the rest of my life. Mom saying she doesn't recognize the person I've become. Aunts and uncles saying I'm being cruel. The funny thing is, they're still not acknowledging what happened 8 years ago. Still not admitting they were wrong to take Ethan's side. They're just mad that I'm not doing what they want now. This morning, I got an email from my grandmother. The same grandmother who told me to give Ethan and Amanda my blessing. "Jacob, I'm writing this because your stubbornness has gone too far. Your brother is dying. Dying. And you're letting him die because of pride. I raised your father better than this. I expected more from you. If you have any love left in your heart for this family, you'll do the right thing. Come to Christmas. Save your brother. Stop being selfish." I read it 3 times, each time getting angrier. The right thing. After 8 years of them doing the wrong thing. I wrote back, "Grandma, 8 years ago I came to you, and the rest of the family after discovering the person I trusted most in the world had betrayed me for 6 months. Instead of acknowledging that betrayal, you told me to give them my blessing. You told me I was being a spoiled brat. You told me to grow up. The entire family forced me to choose between accepting betrayal or being disowned. I chose being disowned because I have self-respect. Now, after 8 years of silence, you want me to give Ethan an organ? You want me to undergo major surgery, risk my health, and give part of my body to someone who destroyed my trust and the family who validated his actions? And you call that the right thing? The right thing would have been standing up for me 8 years ago. The right thing would have been acknowledging that what Ethan did was wrong. The right thing would have been treating me like I mattered. You didn't do any of those things. So don't lecture me about doing the right thing now. You lost that privilege when you chose Ethan's comfort over basic human decency. Do not contact me again. Hit send. Blocked her email. Hit send. Blocked her email. The next morning I got a letter. An actual physical letter, forwarded from my old address to my current one, through some cousin who apparently had been tracking me. It was from my dad. Jake, I'm writing this because I don't know what else to do. Your mother cries every night thinking about you. Your brother is dying. I know we handled things badly 8 years ago. I know we should have listened to you. I know we were wrong. But can't we move past that now? Can't we be a family again when it matters most? Ethan has maybe 6 months left without a transplant. 6 months. We've tested everyone. Nobody's a match except potentially you. You're his identical twin. The doctors say you're his best hope. Please, son. I'm begging you. Come home. Save your brother. We can work through everything else after. Just please don't let him die when you could save him. We'll do anything you want. Apologize publicly. Acknowledge we were wrong. Whatever it takes. Just please help him. I read it sitting at my kitchen table with my morning coffee. Read it 3 times, looking for the acknowledgement I'd needed 8 years ago. And you know what I found? Nothing sincere. Just desperation disguised as contrition. We know we were wrong isn't an apology. It's a transaction. They were willing to say the words I wanted to hear, not because they meant them, but because they needed something from me. I wrote back, mailed an actual letter because email felt too easy. Dad, you say you know you were wrong, but you don't actually say what you were wrong about. You don't acknowledge that Ethan betrayed me. You don't acknowledge that the family sided with him. You don't acknowledge that I was forced to choose between my self-respect and my family, and you made that choice necessary. You just say, we handled things badly, like you forgot to call me on my birthday or something. What you did was disown me for refusing to accept betrayal. You chose Ethan's comfort over basic decency. Every single family member backed him up. For 8 years, not one of you reached out. Not on holidays, not on my birthday, not when I bought my first house, not when I got promoted, not ever. And now you want me to undergo major surgery, risk my health, and give an organ to the person who destroyed my ability to trust anyone? Because family? The same family that showed me I meant nothing to them? You say you'll do anything I want. Here's what I want. I want those 8 years back. I want my 20s back. The years I spent rebuilding myself from nothing, while you all moved on like I never existed. I want the support I should have had when I needed it. I want a family that would have stood up for me instead of against me. Can you give me any of that? No, because you can't undo the past. You can only live with the consequences. Just like I had to live with the consequences of standing up for myself. I've built a good life here. I have people who care about me, not because we share DNA, but because they actually value me as a person. I have friends who would never ask me to tolerate betrayal for the sake of keeping peace. I have a life I'm proud of, and I'm not giving that up to rescue people who threw me away the moment I stopped being convenient. Ethan made his choices. You all made your choices. Now I'm making mine. Don't contact me again. Jake, mailed it. Felt like closing a chapter that should have closed years ago. That was 4 days ago. Since then, the messages have gotten increasingly unhinged. My Aunt Karen showed up at my workplace yesterday. Actually showed up. Security called me down to the lobby because there was a woman claiming to be my family and refusing to leave until she spoke with me. I found her in the lobby, looking older than I remembered, holding her purse like a shield. Jake, thank God. They wouldn't let me up to see you. Because I work here. This is inappropriate. I drove 6 hours to see you. Please, just 5 minutes. Against my better judgment, I walked outside with her. We stood in the parking lot. Cold December air between us. Your brother is dying. I'm aware. How can you be so cold? This is Ethan, your twin. You grew up together. You were best friends. We stopped being best friends when he spent 6 months sleeping with my girlfriend and lying to my face about it. That was 8 years ago. People change. Ethan's a different person now. He's married, he has kids, he's a good father. Good for him. None of that changes what he did or how the family responded. What do you want from us? We've apologized. We've admitted we were wrong. What more can we do? Nothing. There's nothing you can do. That's what I'm trying to tell you. So you're just going to let your brother die? How will you live with yourself? The same way I've lived with myself for the past 8 years. By remembering that his consequences aren't my responsibility. You're being cruel. This isn't the Jake I knew. The Jake you knew would have given in by now. Would have accepted the guilt trip, donated the kidney, and then spent another decade being the family doormat. That Jake doesn't exist anymore. You all killed him 8 years ago when you chose Ethan over basic human decency. It's not about choosing sides. It was always about choosing sides. And you chose. Now live with it. I walked back into my building. She stood in the parking lot crying. I felt nothing. No guilt, no sadness, just this exhausting frustration that they still couldn't understand why I wouldn't help them. My boss caught me in the hallway. Everything okay? Security said there was a situation. Family thing. It's handled. The same family from... Yeah, don't worry about it. He nodded. Didn't push. That's the thing about the life I've built in Portland. People respect boundaries here. They don't assume family access means unlimited forgiveness. That night, Ethan called again. Different number. I answered because I wanted to finally say what I needed to say. Jake, please, no, stop. I'm going to talk, you're going to listen. 8 years ago, you betrayed me in the worst possible way. Not just by sleeping with Amanda, but by doing it for 6 months. That wasn't a mistake. That was a choice you made every single day. Every time you woke up, every time you saw me, every time you sat across from me at family dinners, knowing what you were doing. That was deliberate. And when I found out and was devastated, instead of owning what you did, you made excuses. You said it just happened. You acted like you were the victim of uncontrollable feelings, instead of a person who made calculated choices to hurt me. But even worse than that, you let the family make me the villain. You stood there while they pressured me to forgive you, while they threatened to disown me, while they told me I was being dramatic and immature and selfish. You could have told them to stop. You could have said, Jake has every right to be hurt, and we need to respect that. But you didn't. You let them bully me into silence because it was easier for you. Because as long as they were focused on fixing me, nobody was looking at what you'd done. So no, I'm not giving you my kidney. Not because I want you to die. Not because I'm holding a grudge. But because you taught me that I can't trust you or anyone in that family to care about me when it's inconvenient. And donating an organ requires trust. It requires believing that the person you're helping would do the same for you. And we both know you wouldn't. If the situation was reversed, if I was the one dying and you were the match, you wouldn't even consider it. You'd make some excuse about your wife and kids needing you, about how you couldn't risk your health, and the family would support that decision. They'd tell me I was being selfish for even asking. But because I'm the one with the organ you need, suddenly I'm required to sacrifice my health and well-being for the greater good? That's not family. That's convenience. So I'm saying no. You'll have to find another solution. But I'm done being the family's backup plan for when things get tough. Silence on the other end. Then, I hope you can live with yourself when I'm dead. I'm living with myself just fine right now. Good luck, Ethan. I hung up, blocked the number, turned off my phone completely, sat in my living room in the house I bought with money I earned through my own hard work, looked around at the life I'd built without any help from the people who were supposed to support me, and I felt okay. Actually okay. This morning I got a Facebook message from Amanda. First time hearing from her in 8 years. Jake, I know you probably don't want to hear from me. I know I'm probably the last person who should be reaching out, but Ethan's dying and he needs your help. I know what we did was wrong. I've regretted it every day for 8 years. I've wanted to reach out so many times to apologize, but I figured you wouldn't want to hear from me. But now it's life or death. Can we please talk? Just the two of us? No family pressure, no guilt trips. I just want to explain some things, and maybe you'll understand why this is so important. Please? I stared at that message for a long time. Thought about responding. Thought about hearing her side of things. Wondered if maybe, possibly, there was something I was missing. Some piece of information that would make all of this make sense. Then I remembered sitting in that diner with Lucas, listening to his apology, actually believing he'd changed. Remembered the casino charge that came through an hour later. Remembered that people like this don't change. They just learn new ways to manipulate. I deleted the message, blocked her account, went to the gym, lifted weights until my arms shook, came home and made dinner. Normal Thursday night routine, because that's what tonight was going to be. Normal. If you enjoyed this video, please hit that subscribe button. It really helps the channel, and help us bring you more and better stories. Thanks. My mom tried to cut me from Dad's will at the reading. She wanted it all for her and my sister. The lawyer smirked. Actually, Douglas had other plans. Hey, Reddit. Been thinking about posting this, and here we are. This is the story of how my dad handed my leeching mom and sister a reality check after he passed. Grab popcorn. This one is savage. I'm Silas, 29 male. Growing up, I learned pretty early that some families have normal problems, and some families have Valerie, my mother, the kind of woman who'd return a birthday gift you bought her, and then complain you didn't get her anything. Here's the kind of stuff I'm talking about. I was 12 when I made the honor roll for the first time. Straight A's. Busted my ass all semester. Mom looked at the report card for about 5 seconds and said, well, Kelsey got Student of the Month in her class. Kelsey was 8. Her teacher gave that award to literally every kid at some point. But somehow, that was more impressive. My sister Kelsey was not just the golden child. Mom freaking worshipped her. 4 years younger. And according to Mom, the second coming of Christ in blonde highlights. I was Silas, the family screw-up. Didn't matter that I got better grades, played varsity baseball, had actual friends. In Mom's eyes, I was always one step away from being a disappointment, while Kelsey could have burned the house down, and Mom would have praised her for keeping warm. The kicker? When I was 17, I got a full academic scholarship to ASU's business program. Full ride, everything covered. Mom said, that's nice, honey. 2 weeks later, Kelsey got a participation ribbon at a community theater thing. Mom threw her a party, invited the whole family, made a speech about how proud she was. I wish I was making this up. Dad saw it. Douglas wasn't perfect, but he wasn't blind either. He'd pull me aside after Mom's performances and say stuff like, your mother has her own way of seeing things, which was his way of saying, your mother's insane, but I've been married to her for 20 years and I'm too tired to fight. He spent extra time with me, made sure I knew I wasn't losing my mind. Around the time I turned 16, he started telling me to keep records of things. Emails, texts, conversations. Seemed weird as heck back then. Makes perfect sense now. He died 8 weeks ago. Heart attack at 62. Seemed like it came out of nowhere, but honestly it didn't. Living with Valerie for 35 years would kill anybody. Mom had been writing him for years about the business, about money, about how Kelsey deserved more support for her fashion career. Yeah, my sister's job was working part-time at some overpriced boutique in Scottsdale, calling herself a fashion consultant while Dad paid her rent. The funeral was a performance. Mom played the grieving widow like she was auditioning for something. Kelsey played the devastated daughter, posting black and white photos with crying emojis every 6 hours. Meanwhile, I handled all the actual logistics. Contacted relatives, arranged the service, dealt with the funeral home. The usual scapegoat stuff. At the reception, Mom pulled me aside. Your father would want you to be practical about this, Silas. Kelsey has opportunities right now. Your father's estate needs to support that. What opportunities? I asked. Her part-time retail job? She got that look, the one that said I was being difficult again. She has connections in the fashion industry, boutique management opportunities. This is her career, and it requires investment. Your father understood that. Sure he did. That's why he'd been quietly paying her rent for 3 years, while she built her network by folding clothes. We'll discuss it later at the will reading, Mom said. Translation. I've already decided how this goes, and you're going to shut up and accept it. That was 6 weeks ago, and I'd spent those weeks watching Mom and Kelsey plan their financial victory lap. They'd already started shopping, already started talking about the vacation house in Scottsdale they were going to buy, already started treating Dad's life insurance and estate like their personal ATM. Then the reading day came. Calder and Associates in downtown Phoenix. Mom was dressed like she was attending a charity gala. Black Chanel suit, pearls, the works. Kelsey was right beside her in designer everything, scrolling through her phone and checking her makeup every 30 seconds. Should we get lunch somewhere nice after this? Kelsey asked Mom. Not immediately, Mom said. We want to be respectful. Right. These two had about as much respect as hyenas circling something dead. I was sitting across from them. Mom kept shooting me these looks like my existence was offensive. Kelsey hadn't acknowledged me once. My Uncle Stephen walked in about 10 minutes later. Dad's younger brother. The only family member who'd ever treated decently. He nodded at me, shook hands, and sat down without saying much. Didn't expect to see you here, Stephen, Mom said. Tight smile. The kind that didn't reach her eyes. Douglas was my brother, Stephen said simply. Where else would I be? The receptionist called us back before Mom could respond. We filed into the conference room where Daniel Calder was waiting. Gray hair, expensive suit. He'd been Dad's lawyer for 20 years. Knew the whole family situation. Probably sat through Dad venting about Mom's nonsense more than once. "Thank you all for coming," Calder said. "I know this is difficult. Douglas was a good man and a valued client." "Yes, very sad," Mom said quickly. "Now, Daniel, I think we all know why we're here." Douglas and I discussed the estate extensively. Everything should be straightforward. Calder's eyebrow went up. "Mrs. Holloway, I think it's best if we proceed with the reading before any assumptions are made." Mom didn't like that, but she smiled and nodded like she was being patient with a slow child. Calder opened the folder. Douglas's will is actually quite simple. It was last updated 8 months ago. 8 months? Kelsey spoke up. But Mom said they just finalized everything. "We did discuss certain matters," Mom said smoothly. "I'm sure it's all in order." "The will leaves several specific bequests," Calder continued. "To Valerie Holloway, Douglas's wedding ring and the sum of $1. The room went dead silent. Mom's face went through like 5 different emotions in 2 seconds. "Excuse me. What?" $1, Calder repeated. "Along with his wedding ring?" "That's ridiculous," Kelsey said. "There must be a mistake." "No mistake. To Kelsey Holloway, Douglas leaves his collection of fishing rods and the sum of $1. Kelsey looked like someone had slapped her. "Fishing rods? I don't even fish." "That was rather the point, I believe," Calder said dryly. I was trying so hard not to smile. Stephen caught my eye and gave me the tiniest nod. "This is invalid," Mom said. The Grieving Widow Act was gone. Douglas wasn't in his right mind. "I'll contest this." "You're welcome to try," Calder said. However, Douglas had a complete cognitive evaluation 6 months ago. He was perfectly sound. Additionally, he recorded a video statement explaining his decisions. "Would you like to see it?" "Yes," I said. First word I'd spoken since we sat down. Calder pulled out a tablet and set it on the table. Pressed play. Dad's face filled the screen. He was sitting in this same office, looking healthy and lucid. "If you're watching this, I'm dead. And Valerie's probably throwing a fit right about now." Mom's face went red. Dad continued on the screen. "Let me start by saying I love my son Silas. He's the only one in this family who never asked me for a darn thing except my time. The only one who visited because he wanted to. The only one who gave a crap about me as a person instead of a wallet." Mom stood up. "I don't have to listen to this." "Sit down, Mrs. Holloway," Calder said. It wasn't a request. She sat. "Valerie," Dad's voice continued, "you've been trying to bleed me dry for 35 years. Every business decision I made, you questioned. Every dollar I spent on Silas, you resented. You turned Kelsey into a spoiled brat who thinks the world owes her a living. And you tried your hardest to convince me my son was worthless. It didn't work. Kelsey was crying. The ugly kind. Mascara running down her face in black streaks. She had her hands over her face, shoulders shaking. I'm leaving you $1 each because you're both legally entitled to something. But here's what you need to know. Everything else goes to Silas. The house, the business, the investment accounts, all of it. But here's the thing. It already transferred to him 2 years ago through a trust I established." Mom's face went from red to white. "That's right. 2 years ago, I moved everything into an irrevocable trust with Silas as the sole beneficiary. You've been living in Silas's house for 2 years, Valerie. Driving his cars, spending his money, every credit card purchase, every check you wrote, every bill you paid, all from accounts Silas owned." "That's not possible," Mom whispered. "I had my reasons," Dad continued. "I needed to see if you'd change. If you'd start treating your son like a human being once you thought the money was secured, and you didn't. You got worse. You tried to cut him out completely, told him he wasn't invited to family dinners, spread rumors about him to relatives, even tried to keep him from my hospital room when I had my health scare last year. That had been fun. Mom telling the nurses I was estranged, and Silas Holloway was not to be admitted. The nurses who'd called me because Dad had me listed as emergency contact and medical power of attorney. So here's how this works," Dad said. "Silas owns everything. The house, the cars, the business, the investment portfolio. Valerie, you get $1 and my wedding ring back. Kelsey, you get my fishing rods because maybe learning a skill would do you some good. As for the rest of your lives, that's Silas's call. But if I were him, I'd tell you both to go take a hike." The video ended. The silence in that room was beautiful. Mom found her voice first. "This is fraud. He was clearly mentally ill. I'm contesting this." Calder pulled out a stack of documents. Medical records, psychiatric evaluations, video recordings of Dad meeting with multiple doctors. "Mrs. Holloway, Your husband had 4 separate psychiatric evaluations in the 2 years before his death. All of them confirm he was of sound mind. He was quite thorough. The house is in both our names, Mom said desperately. Community property state. He can't just... Actually, the house was placed in the trust before your last refinance, Calder interrupted. You signed the paperwork yourself. Did you read what you were signing? Mom's mouth opened. She'd been too busy spending money to read contracts. Kelsey was still crying, but now it was angry crying. This is nonsense. Silas doesn't deserve anything. He was never there. He never cared about this family. I finally spoke up. Never there? I visited Dad every Sunday for 10 years. You showed up on holidays when you needed money. That's not true. I have texts. Hundreds of them. You asking Dad for rent money, car payments, credit card bailouts? Want me to read them out loud? She shut up. What about the business? Mom demanded. I worked in that office for years. I built that company with Douglas. Stephen laughed. Valerie, you answered phones part-time for 3 years in the 80s. Douglas built that company himself. Who the heck asked you? Mom snapped. Douglas did, Stephen said calmly. He asked me to be here for this. Asked me to make sure Silas had backup when you tried your nonsense. And here we are. Calder cleared his throat. There are a few more things to cover. Mrs. Holloway, you have 60 days to vacate the property at 2847 Desert Ridge Lane. That's Silas's primary residence now. 60 days? Mom was practically screaming. I've lived there for 35 years. You lived there while married to the man who owned it, Calder corrected. That man is dead, and the property belongs to his son. You're being given 60 days out of courtesy. If you contest the trust, that timeline accelerates to 30 days. This is insane, Kelsey said. Silas, come on. You're really going to kick Mom out? Yeah, I said. I really am. We're family. No, we're related. Mom was pacing now. You could see her brain working, looking for leverage. The jewelry. I have jewelry that Douglas bought me. That's mine. Items purchased with marital funds are subject to division, Calder said. However, we have complete documentation of every purchase made in the last 10 years. Any jewelry that can be proven to have been purchased by Douglas or with his funds will need to be returned. Everything was purchased with his funds, Mom shrieked. She looked at me with pure hatred. You planned this. You turned him against us. I didn't have to turn him against anyone. You did that yourselves. I just stood back and watched. You're going to regret this, Mom said. I'll make sure everyone knows what you've done. The family, the church, your father's business associates. They'll know you stole from your own mother. Go ahead, I said. I've got about 3.2 million reasons not to give a crap what people think. Stephen snorted. Valerie, you might want to quit while you're behind. But Mom was on a roll now. That money was supposed to support Kelsey's career. She has real opportunities. Your father promised to support her. He did support her, I said. For years. And what did she do with it? Post pictures of her brunch on Instagram. Real valuable contribution to society. Screw you, Silas, Kelsey spat. Creative. You come up with that yourself or did you see it in a meme? Okay, that's all, Calder interrupted. Silas, I need you to stay for a few minutes to sign some documents. Valerie, Kelsey, you're free to go. They didn't move. Just sat there in shock. Like their brains couldn't process what had just happened. Ladies, Stephen said, you heard the man. Time to go. Mom stood up. Her hands were shaking. Fine. But this isn't over. They left. Mom first, walking like she'd just aged 20 years. Kelsey following behind, still crying. Her designer bag clutched to her chest like it could protect her. The door closed behind them. Stephen let out a long whistle. Good grief, that was brutal. Your brother was a thorough man, Calder said. That he was, Stephen agreed. That he was. After Mom and Kelsey left, Calder walked me through the actual documentation. The trust papers, the property deeds, the business documents. Everything Dad had transferred into my name over the past 2 years without anyone noticing. Your father was brilliant, Calder said. He structured everything so it wouldn't trigger any red flags. Small transfers, gradual changes. By the time anyone realized what was happening, it was done. How'd he keep Mom from finding out? I asked. Separate accounts, Calder explained. He maintained the joint accounts she had access to, kept them funded at normal levels. But he moved everything else into the trust accounts. She never looked at the full financial picture because she didn't need to. The money was always there when she wanted it. So she was spending my money. For 2 years, yes. Can she contest this? I asked Calder. She can try, he said, but she'll lose. Douglas had everything documented. He even kept a journal detailing her attempts to manipulate him and exclude you from family events. He kept a journal. Calder pulled out a leather-bound book. Thick. He started it years ago, when he began to really see the pattern. Everything's in here. Dates, times, specific incidents. It's admissible in court if she decides to fight. I flipped through it, page after page of documented abuse. We spent another hour going through paperwork, signing documents, transferring titles. By the time we were done, my hand was cramping and my head was spinning with information about investment portfolios, business assets, and property holdings. One more thing, Calder said. He handed me a sealed envelope. Your father wanted you to have this. It's for you to read it alone. I pocketed the letter. Stephen offered to buy me lunch. We went to this Mexican place Dad used to love, sat in a back booth and ordered drinks and tacos while the afternoon heat shimmered outside. Your old man called me about 6 months ago, Stephen said. Told me what he was planning. Asked if I'd have your back when it went down. He knew it'd get ugly. He knew Valerie would go nuclear. Kelsey too. They're predictable. My phone had been buzzing nonstop since we left the lawyer's office. Texts from relatives, from family friends, from people I hadn't talked to in years. Mom had clearly started making calls, spinning her version of events. One text from my Aunt Joyce. Silas, your mother is devastated. How could you do this? I replied, talk to Calder and Associates. They have the full story. Another from my cousin Brad. Dude, what the heck? Your mom's saying you stole everything? Stephen's phone was blowing up too. He ignored it. Just ate his tacos and drank like he didn't have a care in the world. You're gonna get a lot of that, he said. Valerie's going to try to turn everyone against you. Let her, I said. Anyone who believes her without hearing my side isn't worth keeping around anyway. Stephen smiled. Your dad would be proud. We finished lunch. Stephen drove me back to my apartment, the actual apartment I'd been living in, not the small, struggling apartment Mom thought I lived in. It was a nice place. Downtown Phoenix. 2-bedroom, comfortable. You gonna move into the house? Stephen asked. Eventually, I said. Want to let it air out first. Get rid of the Valerie stink. He laughed. Fair enough. You need anything, you call me. Day or night. Your dad asked me to look out for you, and I don't take that stuff lightly. Thanks, Stephen. After he left, I sat on my couch and opened Dad's letter. The private one Calder had given me. Silas, it started. If you're reading this, I'm gone, and hopefully Valerie's losing her mind right about now. I'm sorry I put you through 35 years of her nonsense. I'm sorry I didn't protect you better when you were a kid, but I hope I made up for it by protecting you now. I kept reading. The money's yours, he wrote. Use it well. Don't blow it on stupid stuff. Invest it. Grow it. Build something. But more importantly, use it to be free. Free from anyone who wants to use you. You deserve that freedom. The letter went on for pages. Advice about the business, about investments, about finding someone who actually gave a crap about me instead of my bank account. One last thing, the letter ended. Don't feel guilty. They will try to make you feel guilty. Kelsey. They'll cry. They'll beg. They'll tell you I wasn't in my right mind. Don't believe them. I knew exactly what I was doing, and I'd do it again in a heartbeat. Take care of yourself, kid. Love, Dad. I sat there for a long time, holding the letter, thinking about the man who'd played the long game so I'd be okay. My phone rang. Mom. I sent it to voicemail. It rang again. Kelsey. Voicemail. A text from Kelsey. Silas, please. We need to talk. Too little, too late. Over the next few weeks, they went into full meltdown mode. Mom tried everything. Crying phone calls to relatives. Posting on Facebook about ungrateful children. Showing up at the house and demanding to be let in. I had the locks changed within 48 hours of the will reading. She stood outside screaming about her property rights until the neighbors called the cops. The cop who showed up was this big dude named Officer Salgado. He listened to her rant for about 30 seconds before cutting her off. Ma'am, do you have legal ownership of this property? I lived here for 35 years. That's not what I asked. Do you have your name on the deed? My husband, your deceased husband, who left the property to his son. The son who's asking you to leave. She tried the tears. The whole performance. Salgado wasn't buying it. Ma'am, you need to leave the property or I'll cite you for trespassing. This is my home. According to the documents, Mr. Holloway showed me, this is his home. You have 60 days to collect your belongings per the eviction notice. But right now, you need to leave. She left, but not before screaming at me through the window about what an ungrateful son I was. The neighbors got a heck of a show. Kelsey took a different approach. She went to everyone she knew, called mutual friends, posted long rants, told her coworkers at the boutique. Anyone who would listen got an earful about her cruel brother who stole from his sister. about how her father's will was manipulated, and she was getting justice. Her friends were split between supporters who ate up the victim narrative and people who asked why she didn't just get a better job. One friend commented on Facebook, "Girl, if you spend as much time working as you do complaining about your brother, you'd have your own money." Kelsey blocked her. She tried to start a GoFundMe. "Help me fight my brother's theft of my inheritance." It raised $300 before GoFundMe shut it down for violating their terms about legal disputes. Kelsey made another Facebook post about being silenced by the corrupt system. The comments on that one were brutal. Someone wrote, "Maybe you're being silenced because you're full of nonsense." Another said, "Your dad literally recorded a video explaining why he cut you out. That's not theft. That's consequences." Kelsey deleted the post and deactivated Facebook for a week, then came back with a new post about taking time for my mental health and how toxic people were attacking her. The self-awareness was non-existent. Mom hired a lawyer, some ambulance chaser who took one look at Calder's documentation and told her she had no case. She fired him and hired another one. Same result. By the third lawyer, she was running out of money for retainers. She showed up at my apartment one night. I saw her through the peephole. Didn't answer. She knocked for 20 minutes before giving up. She left a note taped to my door. "I'm your mother. I raised you. You owe me." I crumpled it up and threw it away. She tried Uncle Stephen, called him crying, begging him to talk sense into me. Stephen told her to take a hike and then called me laughing about it. She tried the whole, "he's turning against family" thing, Stephen said. I reminded her that she'd been bleeding my father dry for decades. She hung up on me. The 60-day eviction notice came and went. Mom didn't move out. She claimed she had nowhere to go. I filed for formal eviction. The sheriff showed up with a notice. Mom threw a tantrum in the driveway that the neighbors recorded and posted to the community Facebook group. The video went viral in the neighborhood. Mom screaming about her rights. The sheriff explaining property law like he was talking to a toddler. Mom calling me every name in the book. The sheriff eventually threatening to arrest her. She was basically the local entertainment for a week. Kelsey moved in with some guy she'd been dating for 3 weeks. Posted about how he was so supportive and understood real love. They broke up 4 days later when he realized she expected him to pay for everything. She moved back to my house, and refused to leave. I had the utilities shut off. No power, no water, no AC in August, in Phoenix. The temperature inside that house must have hit 110 degrees. They lasted 3 days before they finally packed up and left. Mom rented an apartment in a bad part of town, the kind of place she would have called sketchy before she had to live there. Kelsey couch surfed with various friends until they all got tired of her stuff. The business transition was smooth. Dad had good people running things. They were happy to see me taking over instead of Mom trying to meddle. Sales actually went up the first quarter after Dad died because people weren't dealing with Mom's crazy anymore. One of the longtime employees, Tom, pulled me aside. "Your dad was a good man. Glad to see things worked out the way they should have." I sold the house. Couldn't deal with being in a place that had that many lousy memories. Bought a modern place in Scottsdale. Minimalist. Clean. No history. No ghosts. Huge windows overlooking the desert. Finally, some peace and quiet. Mom found out and lost her mind. Posted on Facebook about how I'd stolen her home and sold it to erase her existence. The post got 12 likes, mostly from people who didn't know the full story. Someone commented, "Valerie, you need to stop. You're embarrassing yourself." Mom replied, "You don't know what I've been through." The commenter, "We all know." Douglas's lawyer made sure of that. "You treated your son like garbage and now you're paying for it. Take the L and move on." Mom deleted the post. Kelsey got kicked out of her couch surfing situation and had to move in with Mom in the crappy apartment. 2 narcissists in 600 square feet would have paid to see that disaster. According to Stephen's sources, they were fighting within a week. Kelsey blaming Mom for turning Dad against them. Mom blaming Kelsey for being a burden. Zero self-reflection, zero accountability. Just blaming each other. The text messages continued. Both of them. Begging, threatening, guilt-tripping. I blocked them both. They created new numbers. I blocked those too. Finally got a new number entirely, and only gave it to people I trusted. Uncle Stephen reported regular updates. Mom had gotten a job at a dentist's office, receptionist work. She lasted 2 weeks before getting fired for being rude to patients. Kelsey was still at the boutique, but had her hours cut because she kept showing up late and complaining to customers about her family situation. Turns out people shopping for $300 jeans don't want to hear about your inheritance drama. One of her coworkers apparently told management, Maybe if she focused on actually helping customers instead of trauma dumping on them, she'd make some commission. Kelsey got written up and started looking for other jobs. Found nothing that paid as well as Dad's monthly checks used to. About 4 months after the will reading, I got a call from Calder. Mom was trying one last challenge. She'd found some lawyer willing to take her case on contingency. Claims about undue influence. About Dad not being in his right mind despite all the evidence. About me manipulating a sick old man, Cald said. They're trying to tie things up in court, make it expensive for you, hoping you'll settle just to make it go away. How much would a settlement cost them to even propose? They're asking for $500,000. I laughed. Tell them to get lost. That's not quite the legal terminology I'll use, but I'll convey the sentiment. I paused. Actually, I have a better idea, I said. Can you arrange a mediation? Face to face. Let them think I'm considering it. The mediation was set up at a neutral office downtown. Me, Calder, Stephen, Mom, Kelsey, and their bargain bin lawyer, who looked like he'd gotten his degree online. Mom and Kelsey showed up looking rough. Mom had aged like 10 years and 4 months. Kelsey looked like she'd been eating nothing but rage. Their lawyer had a cheap suit written all over him, and desperation in his eyes. I could tell he already regretted this case. We sat down across from each other. The mediator started with her spiel about good faith negotiation, about finding common ground and family healing. I interrupted her. How much do you owe this guy? I asked Mom, pointing at her lawyer. That's not relevant, the lawyer said quickly. How much? I repeated. Mom looked away. He's working on contingency. Right. 30% of whatever he gets. So he's motivated to squeeze me. Got it. I turned to the mediator. Here's my offer. $0. Not now, not ever. They can spend the next 10 years in court if they want. Silas, please, Kelsey said. This is killing Mom. Really? I said. Because last I checked, Mom was alive and complaining on Facebook. Dad's the one who's dead. That's not fair, Mom said. I loved your father. You loved his money. There's a difference. The lawyer tried to jump in. Mr. Holloway, my clients are willing to compromise. We understand emotions are high, but nothing, I said. You took this case because you thought I'd roll over. Pay some nuisance settlement to make you go away. Here's what's actually going to happen. You're going to withdraw your claim. Today. Or I'm going to file a countersuit for attempted fraud, harassment, and abuse of process. Then I'm going to bury you in discovery. Depose every person they've ever known. Expose every lie they've told. Make this so expensive and humiliating that you'll regret ever taking this case. The lawyer went pale. Calder slid a folder across the table. I've already started drafting the countersuit. It names you personally for filing a frivolous claim. You'll be defending your law license, not just this case. The lawyer opened the folder, started reading. That's unnecessarily aggressive, he said weakly. Your clients unnecessarily sued me despite having zero legal standing. So yeah, I'm going to be aggressive. Son, Mom said. Her voice was smaller now. Different. I raised you. I gave you a home. Don't I deserve something for that? You deserve what Dad gave you. The fact that you're here asking for more proves he was right about you. We're broke, Kelsey tried. We need help. Get on food stamps, I said. Get government assistance. Get a second job. Do what millions of Americans do every day. Figure it out. You're really going to let your own mother live in poverty? Kelsey asked. I'm going to let her live with the consequences of her choices, I said. She had 35 years to be a decent person. She chose not to be. That's on her. Mom started crying. The ugly kind. Real tears this time, not performance tears. I'm sorry, okay? I'm sorry for everything. For how I treated you. For Kelsey. For all of it. Please. I'm begging you. I looked at her. Really looked at her. This woman who'd made my childhood a living heck. Who'd messed with my head for years. Who'd turned my sister into a clone of herself. Who'd tried to cut me out of my own father's will. You're not sorry you did it, I said. You're sorry it didn't work. There's a difference. The mediator tried to salvage things. Perhaps if we took a break, we're done here, I said, standing up. Calder, Stephen, let's go. As we headed for the door, Mom's voice cracked. Your father would be ashamed of you. I turned back. One last time. Dad planned this entire thing. If he were here right now, he'd be laughing at you. And honestly, so am I. We left them there. The lawyer was already gathering his papers, clearly done with the case. Mom was sobbing. Kelsey was staring at the floor, probably trying to figure out which friend's couch she could crash on next. In the parking lot, Stephen clapped me on the shoulder. Ice cold, kid. I'm impressed. Think they'll drop it? I asked Calder. After that, they'd better. Their lawyer knows he's screwed if he continues. No judge is going to side with them after we present Douglas's documentation. They actually dropped it 2 days later. The lawyer pulled out, probably realizing he wasn't getting paid and definitely wasn't winning. Mom and Kelsey disappeared from my life after that. No more calls, no more texts, no more Facebook drama, just silence. Beautiful silence. 6 months after Dad died, I finally felt like I could actually breathe. The business was doing great. Revenue was up 18%. Employee morale was the best it had been in years. I'd made some smart investments with the money. Diversified portfolio, real estate, some startup ventures that looked promising. The $3.2 million was now closer to $3.5 million. Dad would have been proud. The new house felt like home. No bad memories, no ghosts, just space and light and peace. Uncle Stephen came over for dinner once a week. We'd sit on the back patio, have drinks, watch the sunset turn the desert all gold and purple. Talk about Dad without Mom and Kelsey's nonsense hanging over everything. Got an update on your mom, Stephen said one evening. She's working at a call center now. Night shift. Kelsey's working retail at a different mall. Good, I said. They're figuring it out. Kelsey's not on Facebook anymore. Deleted her whole account after people kept calling her out. Even better, we clinked glasses. The sunset was nuts that night. All orange and red and purple like the sky was burning. I also started dating someone, Leah. She taught at an elementary school in Tempe. We met at a coffee shop. She had no clue about the money at first. Just thought I was some regular guy who ran a manufacturing business. When I finally told her, weeks into dating, she laughed and said, "That explains the weird paranoia about gold diggers." But she stayed. Didn't change how she acted. Didn't suddenly start wanting expensive stuff or fancy dinners. Just wanted to hang out with me. Talk about her day. Watch movies on the couch. Normal stuff. Real stuff. I started a foundation in Dad's name, the Douglas Holloway Business Scholarship, for kids who wanted to learn business but didn't come from money. Kids who reminded me of Dad when he was young. Kids who deserved a shot without some narcissist parent sabotaging them. The first year, we funded 12 scholarships. Full rides to Arizona State's business school. Books, housing, everything. One of the kids sent me a handwritten thank you note. Said he was the first in his family to go to college. That his mom cleaned houses and his dad worked construction, and neither of them ever thought their son would go to college. That note's framed in my office, next to the picture of Dad and me at my college graduation. I heard through the grapevine that Mom and Kelsey moved to California, chasing some new thing, some new person to con probably. Didn't care enough to find out more. Uncle Stephen told me Mom tried hitting up other family members for money. Got shut down by everybody. Nobody wanted anything to do with her. She's burned every bridge, Stephen said. There's no one left to con. Good, I said. One Sunday morning, I drove out to the cemetery where Dad was buried. Hadn't been since the funeral. Too much chaos. But now things were quiet. I could visit without feeling like I was in the middle of World War III. I sat by his headstone. You were right, I said to the stone. You saved my butt, old man. Saved my sanity. Probably saved my life. The wind picked up, rustled through the trees. I told him about the business, about Leah, about everything. More wind, more rustling. I stayed for a while longer. Didn't cry. Didn't need to. Just feeling lighter than I had in forever. This was what he wanted. I raised my bottle to the sunset. Thanks, Dad. I owe you one. And I swear I could feel him smiling. YouTube just dropped this new hype feature. If you're hooked on this story, smash that hype button. It tells YouTube this video deserves to blow up, and it keeps even crazier stories coming your way. Your success means nothing. Tyler's the only son who matters, my mom snarled after skipping my business graduation to fund his failing agency. Then watch me cut you out forever, I said. But what came next? Left their golden boy in ashes. All right, buckle up because this story is absolutely wild, and I'm still processing everything that went down. My name's Adam, I'm 29, and I just became a multimillionaire through real estate investments. But before I get to the good part, where my family gets what's coming to them, you need to understand the complete disaster I grew up in. This is going to be long, but I promise it's worth every word. Grab some coffee and settle in. My mom, Jessica, is a textbook gold digger who married my dad when she was 23, and he was 36 with a decent plumbing business. She's one of those women who thinks her looks entitle her to everything without working for it. Blonde, fake everything, drives a BMW she can't afford, and has never worked a real job in her life. She's also dumber than a box of rocks, but thinks she's brilliant because she managed to trap my dad. My dad Richard used to be a solid guy. Built his plumbing company from nothing. Worked with his hands. Real blue-collar mentality. But 27 years of my mom's nonsense turned him into this spineless doormat who just nods along with whatever she says to avoid drama. Then there's my younger brother Tyler, who's 26 and the biggest waste of space you've ever seen. This dude has had everything handed to him his entire life. While I was working plumbing jobs with dad during summers starting at 15, Tyler was getting $400 weekly allowances and taking networking meetings at expensive restaurants. Let me paint you a picture of how bad the favoritism was. When I was 10 and Tyler was 8, I broke my arm falling off my bike. My parents took me to the emergency room, got me patched up, and that was it. When Tyler scraped his knee falling off the same bike 2 weeks later, they took him to 3 different doctors to make sure there wasn't any underlying damage, bought him a new bike with training wheels even though he was 8, and my mom posted about her brave little warrior on Facebook for a week. When I was 12, I got straight A's on my report card. My reward was a handshake and good job. When Tyler brought home a C+ in art class at age 10, they hung his finger painting on the refrigerator and took him to Chuck E. Cheese to celebrate his artistic achievement. The favoritism was insane from day one. When I graduated high school with a 3.9 GPA and multiple scholarship offers, they bought me a used Honda Civic with 180,000 miles on it and told me I was lucky to get that. When Tyler graduated 2 years later with a 2.7 GPA and no prospects, they leased him a brand new Mustang GT because he needed motivation to succeed. When I got accepted to State University for business, they said, "Hope the financial aid works out," and made me fill out every form myself. When Tyler decided he wanted to study marketing at a private college that costs $55,000 a year, they took out a second mortgage without blinking and hired someone to help him with his application essays. But here's where it gets really messed up. Tyler dropped out junior year to start a social media consulting agency, which was basically him taking photos of his friends' cars and posting them on Instagram for $150 a month. Meanwhile, I'm working my tail off studying real estate finance, working part-time at Home Depot, eating ramen every night, and they act like I'm the family disappointment. Every family dinner, every phone call, every conversation somehow became about Tyler's latest business venture or networking opportunity. I'd try to share news about making Dean's List or getting promoted at work, and within 30 seconds the conversation would shift to Tyler's exciting opportunities or his innovative marketing strategies. When I was 22 and landed my first real estate internship, I excitedly called home to share the news. My mom's response? "That's nice, honey." "Oh, did I tell you Tyler got invited to some entrepreneur meetup?" He's really making connections in the business world. When Tyler was 23 and his business made its first $500 month, you would have thought he'd cured cancer. My parents threw him a celebration dinner at the fanciest restaurant in town, invited extended family, and my dad gave a toast about Tyler's entrepreneurial spirit and bright future. Meanwhile, when I graduated with honors and secured a $52,000 starting salary, I got a text that said, "Congrats! Can't wait to hear about Tyler's new client presentation next week." Every Christmas, every birthday, every family gathering followed the same pattern. Tyler would get expensive, thoughtful gifts that showed they'd been paying attention to his interests. I'd get generic gift cards and clothes that were clearly last-minute purchases. My achievements barely got a "that's nice, honey," before the conversation pivoted back to whatever Tyler was pretending to accomplish that week. It was like living in a house where one son mattered and the other was just there to fill space. Tyler's business was the biggest joke ever, but my parents treated him like he was the next Mark Cuban. This kid convinced them to fund what was essentially an expensive hobby, disguised as entrepreneurship. Let me break down the insanity. First, he convinced them to pay $12,000 for a professional website that looked like it was made in 2003. The developer was some kid Tyler met at a coffee shop who charged premium prices for basic WordPress templates. The site had exactly 4 pages: home, about, services, and contact. The services page literally just said, "Social media solutions for modern businesses," with no actual explanation of what he did. Then came the $18,000 camera setup for content creation. We're talking professional-grade equipment that actual photographers would use for weddings and commercial shoots. Tyler used it to take pictures of his friends' cars in parking lots. The majority of his content was blurry iPhone photos anyway, but he convinced my parents that investing in quality equipment shows clients you're serious. The downtown loft apartment was the crown jewel of his delusion. $2,400 per month for a trendy space in the arts district because he needed to project success to attract high-end clients. The apartment had exposed brick walls, industrial lighting, and a creative workspace that was just a desk from IKEA with some motivational posters. Tyler would bring potential clients there for strategy sessions, which were basically him showing off his expensive setup while having no actual strategy to discuss. The Tesla Model 3 lease was justified because image is everything in social media marketing. Tyler claimed that pulling up to client meetings in a luxury car showed he was successful and trustworthy. Never mind that most of his clients were small local businesses that couldn't care less what car he drove. The Tesla cost $650 per month plus insurance, and Tyler convinced my parents it was a business expense. But the real kicker was how much they spent sending him to business conferences and networking events. These were basically weekend parties in different cities where wannabe entrepreneurs paid $500 to attend motivational seminars and exchange business cards. Tyler went to events in Austin, Nashville, Miami, and Las Vegas, all on my parents' dime. Each trip cost between $2,000 and $3,500 when you included flights, hotels, conference fees, and Tyler's networking dinners at expensive restaurants. In 4 years of operation, Tyler's highest monthly revenue was $1,200, and that was only because he temporarily landed a local car dealership that paid him to post photos of their inventory. He lost that client after 3 months when they realized they could post their own photos for free. His typical monthly income was closer to $300, but his expenses were roughly $6,000 per month when you included everything my parents were covering. The most ridiculous part was listening to my family talk about Tyler's business at dinners. My mom would brag to relatives about her entrepreneur son and his innovative marketing strategies. My dad would nod along and talk about Tyler's vision and how he was disrupting the traditional marketing space. They genuinely believed Tyler was building the next big thing. Meanwhile, I graduated summa cum laude with a business degree, got hired at a commercial real estate firm for $52,000, and you know what my mom said? "That's nice, honey. But did you see Tyler just got featured in that entrepreneur blog?" The feature was a 200-word blurb in some random startup website that let anyone submit their own profile for $50. I started learning everything I could about real estate investing on my own time, spent every weekend at property auctions, read every book I could find, watched YouTube videos until 2 a.m. I was determined to build something real while Tyler was playing pretend businessman with my parents' money. The absolute breaking point was my college graduation. I had worked my butt off for 4 years, graduated top 5% of my class with a 3.87 GPA, already had a job lined up at a respected firm, and I specifically bought them 3 tickets to the ceremony months in advance. I even called them the week before to confirm and sent them the parking information and ceremony schedule. Day of graduation, I'm sitting in the staging area with my cap and gown on, getting ready to walk across that stage with my fellow business school graduates, when I get a text from my mom at 10:47 a.m. "Can't make it today, sweetie? Tyler's meeting with a potential investor who flew in from Denver. This could be the opportunity he's been working toward. We'll celebrate your graduation later, promise. So proud of both our successful boys. XOXO. I just stared at that message. This investor was probably another wannabe entrepreneur Tyler met at one of his networking events, but my parents treated it like he was meeting with Warren Buffett. They chose Tyler's pipe dream over my actual tangible achievement. I looked around that auditorium and saw all these families cheering for their kids, taking photos, bringing flowers, crying happy tears. The 3 seats I'd reserved in the front section were completely empty. I felt like such a loser standing there in my cap and gown, with nobody to share the biggest moment of my academic life. When they called my name and I walked across that stage to receive my diploma, I heard applause from strangers and felt completely alone. The dean shook my hand and said, "Congratulations, Mr. Peterson. Your professors speak very highly of your work." I smiled and thanked him, but inside I was devastated. After the ceremony, I stood outside the auditorium, watching other graduates hug their families and take pictures. I got in my Honda Civic and drove home alone, my diploma sitting in the passenger seat like a participation trophy nobody cared about. After graduation, I basically went low contact with my family. Started working 65-hour weeks, learned everything I could about real estate markets, and poured every dollar into my first investment property. While Tyler was posting Instagram stories about his entrepreneur lifestyle, I was sleeping on an air mattress and studying market trends until 3 a.m. every night. Here's something nobody talks about. When you cut toxic people out of your life, even family, you suddenly have so much more mental energy to focus on your goals. I wasn't constantly stressed about their drama or trying to prove myself to people who didn't give a darn about my success. My first property was a complete disaster, a duplex in a neighborhood that was up and coming, according to the real estate agent, but was actually just run down. I paid $85,000 for it, which cleaned out my savings and required me to get a hard money loan at 12% interest for the remaining $15,000. The place needed $25,000 in repairs I couldn't afford. New roof, updated plumbing, electrical work, flooring replacement, and a complete kitchen renovation. I learned to do most of the work myself out of necessity. Spent my weekends watching YouTube videos about installing laminate flooring, fixing leaky pipes, and replacing light fixtures. My dad's old contractor friends took pity on me and taught me the basics of drywall repair and tile installation in exchange for helping them on their own projects. The first tenant was a nightmare. Single mom with 3 kids who seemed nice during the showing, but turned out to be a hoarder. She lived there for 8 months, stopped paying rent after month 4, and when I finally got her evicted, she left the place destroyed. I spent another $8,000 getting it back to rentable condition, but I was learning valuable lessons about screening tenants, property management, and cash flow analysis. It took me 8 months to get the duplex stabilized, but when I did, I was making $400 per month in positive cash flow after all expenses. That $400 became my seed money for property number 2. Meanwhile, my family was still obsessing over Tyler's business. During the few times I visited, every conversation was about his latest client prospects or networking opportunities. When I mentioned I had bought an investment property, my mom's response was, "That's nice, dear. Did we tell you Tyler's thinking about expanding into video marketing? He's looking at some really expensive equipment." Property number 2 was a single-family house that needed cosmetic work, but was structurally sound. I'd learned from my mistakes on the duplex and was much more conservative with my estimates. The house cost $68,000, needed about $12,000 in updates, and cash flowed $350 per month when finished. That's when I discovered the magic of what real estate investors call the BRRRR strategy: buy, rehab, rent, refinance, repeat. Once I had both properties stabilized and rented, I could refinance them based on their improved values and pull out most of my original investment to buy the next property. Property 3 was where I really started to understand the business. I found a foreclosure that banks had been sitting on for 8 months. The house was solid, but looked terrible because the previous owners had stripped out all the copper pipes and appliances before losing it. I got it for $52,000, put $18,000 into making it rentable, and it appraised for $89,000 when finished. After refinancing, I pulled out $71,000, which meant I had less than $5,000 of my own money tied up in a property that cash flowed $425 per month. The real estate firm I worked for got bought out by a national company when I was 25. My commission structure improved dramatically because the new company had access to commercial deals and high-end residential properties. I started making serious money. Some months I'd close $200,000 in sales and earn $6,000 in commissions. But instead of upgrading my lifestyle like most people do when their income increases, I kept living like a broke college student and invested every extra dollar into more properties. Same ratty Honda with 220,000 miles, same one-bedroom apartment with mismatched furniture, eating peanut butter sandwiches for lunch because they cost 50 cents each. By the time I turned 27, I owned 12 rental units across 3 different neighborhoods. I was clearing about $3,800 per month in rental income on top of my salary, but I kept it quiet and let my family keep thinking I was just some basic real estate agent making modest commissions. Properties 4 through 12 were where I really hit my stride. I'd developed relationships with contractors who gave me good prices, knew which neighborhoods were about to gentrify, and could spot a good deal from across the street. I was buying properties for 60 to 70 cents on the dollar, putting minimal money into them, and refinancing out 90% of my investment. My personal favorite was property number 8, a triplex that had been vacant for 2 years because it needed a new roof, and the owner didn't want to deal with it. I got it for $95,000, put $22,000 into it, including the roof replacement, and it appraised for $165,000. After refinancing, I pulled out $148,500, which meant I actually made money buying the property. It cash flowed $1,200 per month once all 3 units were rented. But here's the crazy part. My family still had no idea what I was actually accomplishing. During one of our rare family dinners, I casually mentioned that I owned several investment properties. My dad's response? Well, just make sure you're not overextending yourself. Real estate is risky. Then he immediately pivoted to talking about Tyler's exciting new partnership opportunity with some other fake entrepreneur. The best part? Tyler's business completely collapsed during the pandemic because small businesses stopped paying for social media services. Suddenly, Mr. Entrepreneur was back to living with mommy and daddy, but they still acted like he was some genius who just hit a rough patch. During lockdown, Tyler started 3 different businesses: a meal delivery service that lasted 6 weeks, a dog walking app that never got past the PowerPoint stage, and something called virtual networking solutions. That was essentially him trying to charge people $50 to join Zoom calls where they could network with other entrepreneurs. All 3 ventures failed spectacularly, but my parents kept funding them and making excuses. Tyler's just figuring out the right opportunity, my mom would say. The pandemic was bad timing for his marketing business, but he's adapting. Meanwhile, the pandemic was the best thing that ever happened to my real estate portfolio. Interest rates dropped to historic lows, so I refinanced every property and pulled out even more equity. Rent collection actually improved because my tenants qualified for various assistance programs that paid their rent directly to landlords. Last year, I hit my first million in net worth. Not just on paper, actual equity I could borrow against, plus cash in the bank. At 28 years old, I had more wealth than my parents had accumulated in 30 years of marriage. But I still kept quiet because I was having too much fun watching Tyler struggle while my parents continued enabling him. Then our local business journal decided to do a feature on young real estate moguls under 30, and somehow my name ended up on their list. The article was huge, talked about my investment strategy, my background, even mentioned how I overcame early financial challenges to build my portfolio. They estimated my net worth at $1.8 million, which was actually conservative since they didn't know about all my properties. The article included a photo of me standing in front of one of my renovated properties, and they listed out my entire investment timeline. It was impossible to deny that I had built something substantial. I didn't tell my family about the article, but apparently someone from my dad's old work crew saw it and sent it to him. Within 48 hours, my phone was blowing up with messages I'd been ignoring for months. First was my dad. Adam, saw the article in the business journal. We need to talk. Then Tyler. Bro, what the heck? Why didn't you tell us you were rich? Finally, my mom. Honey, call me ASAP. This is amazing news for our family. Notice how suddenly I'm part of our family again? I ignored all their calls for 2 weeks just to watch them squirm. I could see my mom was stalking my social media because she started liking photos from 3 years ago. The desperation was beautiful. When I finally answered my dad's call, the conversation was absolutely hilarious. He was stuttering and stumbling over his words, clearly reading from notes my mom had written for him. Son, we're so proud of what you've accomplished. Your mother and I always knew you were destined for great things. Really? I said. Because I distinctly remember you calling real estate a young man's game and asking when I was going to get a stable job with benefits. Long pause. Then, we want to have dinner. Celebrate your success properly. I agreed to meet them at this fancy steakhouse downtown, the kind of place they would never normally go because entrees start at $45. Watching them try to act comfortable in that environment was worth the price of admission. My mom showed up dressed like she was going to a movie premiere. Tight dress, full makeup, jewelry I'd never seen before. She immediately started with this fake proud mom routine. Adam, sweetheart, I've been bragging about you to all my friends. I always knew you'd be successful in real estate. Funny, I said, because 2 years ago you told me I should quit playing with houses and get a real job with a pension like government work. She got flustered and tried to change the subject. Well, we're here now, and we want to be part of your journey going forward. That's when Tyler jumped in with the real reason they wanted to meet. Bro, I've been thinking, you know a lot about business now, and I've got this new idea that could really take off. Maybe we could partner up. I almost choked on my water. What happened to your social media agency? The pandemic killed it, he said, not even embarrassed. But I've learned so much from that experience. Now I'm thinking about getting into real estate myself. You could teach me the ropes. These people had ignored me for years, missed my graduation, treated me like garbage, and now they wanted to be partners. The audacity was breathtaking. I played along for the rest of dinner, letting them pitch their various schemes and business ideas. Tyler had prepared what he called a partnership proposal on his laptop. It was 3 slides about how we could leverage our combined expertise to dominate the real estate market. The proposal basically boiled down to, I provide all the money and knowledge, Tyler provides his marketing expertise and people skills, and we split profits 50-50. I nodded thoughtfully and told them I'd consider their proposals. Over the next month, the truth started coming out through multiple conversations and some discreet investigating I did on my own. Turns out my family was in deep financial trouble. Dad's plumbing business was failing because my mom convinced him to take out business loans to fund Tyler's lifestyle instead of buying new equipment. They owed $165,000 on the house, $38,000 in credit card debt, and $52,000 on Tyler's Tesla lease and apartment. My mom's spending habits had completely spiraled. She was dropping $1,800 a month on clothes, beauty treatments, and lunches with her equally shallow friends. Tyler hadn't contributed to any household expenses in 8 months and was basically a financial dependent at 26. The really pathetic part was how they started showing up at my apartment unannounced, bringing home-cooked meals and trying to act like caring family members. My mom would call with investment opportunities she heard about from her hairdresser. Tyler kept sending me business plans that looked like they were written by a 7th grader. Tyler's latest scheme was particularly ridiculous. He wanted to start a real estate influencer Instagram account, where he would post about properties I was buying and selling. His pitch was that he could build our brand and attract investors through social media. In exchange for posting photos and writing captions, he wanted a $60,000 annual salary plus 10% of all profits. But the real wake-up call came when my dad showed up at my office looking like he hadn't slept in weeks. My assistant tried to turn him away, but I agreed to see him. Adam, I need to be straight with you. We're about to lose everything. The business is finished. Your mother, she doesn't understand how bad things really are. Finally, some honesty, but it was way too little. Too late. Dad, where was this honesty when you chose Tyler's fake business over my graduation? Where was your concern when Mom was calling my career playing with houses? He had no answer. Just sat there looking defeated while I continued. I worked construction with you for 3 summers. I learned the value of hard work from watching you build your business. But when I tried to build something myself, you treated it like a hobby while funding Tyler's delusions. He nodded slowly. We messed up. We know that now. But you're the only one who can help us. Here's where the story gets really satisfying. Instead of helping them, I decided to let them dig their own graves deeper while I enjoyed the show. I started flaunting my wealth just enough to drive them crazy. Bought a Porsche Macan S and parked it in their driveway when I visited. The neighbors definitely noticed, and I could see my mom's embarrassment when she had to explain that her disappointment son owned a $75,000 car while her successful entrepreneur son was unemployed. I wore a $15,000 Rolex to family dinners and made sure to check it frequently when Tyler was talking about his latest business ideas. When my mom asked about it, I casually mentioned it was just a little reward for closing a big deal. Watching Tyler's face when he realized my watch cost more than his annual income was priceless. I also started bringing dates to family events. Successful, educated women who made Tyler look even more pathetic by comparison. My mom would fawn over these women, clearly hoping they'd become permanent fixtures who might influence me to help the family. One dinner guest was a commercial real estate attorney I was seeing. When Tyler started his usual spiel about disrupting the marketing space, she politely listened for about 30 seconds before saying, "That's interesting. Have you considered the liability implications of your business structure?" Tyler had no idea what she was talking about and just mumbled something about still figuring out the legal stuff. My mom's behavior became increasingly desperate. She started dressing up every time she thought she might see me, bringing me elaborate home-cooked meals, first time she'd cooked for me in years, and suddenly taking interest in everything I did. She'd call with random questions about my day, my work, my friends, anything to stay connected. Adam, honey, I was thinking maybe you could teach Tyler about real estate. You two could work together like a real family business. Mom, Tyler can barely manage his own checking account. Why would I trust him with real money and actual clients? Tyler's reaction was even better. This kid who used to talk down to me about real business was now practically begging for scraps. He offered to be my assistant for $45,000 a year, claiming his marketing expertise would help me build my brand. When I laughed at that, he came back with $35,000, then $25,000. He even offered to work for free for 6 months to prove himself and learn the business from someone who really knows what they're doing. The desperation was intoxicating. I started getting calls from extended family members who had heard about my success. My aunt called to catch up and mentioned how proud my parents were of me, then casually brought up her son's college tuition struggles. My cousin reached out about a business opportunity that conveniently required a $50,000 investment for some multi-level marketing scheme. Even my mom's sister, who had barely spoken to me in 10 years, suddenly wanted to reconnect and mentioned her upcoming divorce and financial difficulties. The really pathetic part was watching my parents' friends treat them differently. At church, at neighborhood gatherings, everywhere they went, people would ask about their successful son, the real estate investor, while Tyler stood there like a piece of furniture. My dad started bringing copies of the Business Journal article to show people, clearly desperate to bask in reflected glory. But the absolute best moment came 6 weeks ago. My mom called crying. Actual tears, not the fake manipulation she usually pulled. Adam, we got the foreclosure notice. We have 45 days. Your father's too proud to ask, but we need $180,000 to save the house and business. You're our only hope. I let her finish her complete sob story. She went on for 15 minutes about how sorry they were, how much they loved me, how they'd always believed in me deep down, but just didn't know how to show it. She promised things would be different, that Tyler would get a real job, that they'd never take my success for granted again. She offered me equity in the house, promised to pay back the money with interest, said Tyler would work for me for free, anything I wanted. The desperation in her voice was intoxicating. Then I said something that felt better than any business deal I'd ever closed. Mom, remember my graduation? When you said Tyler's investor meeting was more important? Remember when you told me to get a stable government job instead of playing with houses? Remember when you called me the family disappointment? That was different. We were just trying to... No, it wasn't different. You made your choice. Tyler was your investment. I was the backup plan. Well, your investment failed spectacularly, and your backup plan doesn't owe you anything. The silence on the other end was deafening. I could hear her breathing, probably trying to process that her plan to guilt trip me wasn't working. Then she started bargaining. We'll pay you back with interest. We'll give you equity in the house. Tyler will work for you for free. We'll do anything. The time for making deals was 20 years ago when I was a kid who needed his parents' support. That ship has sailed, and it's not coming back to port. I hung up and immediately blocked all their numbers. The foreclosure went through 3 weeks ago. I actually drove by the house the day the sheriff posted the notice. There was a big yellow sticker on the front door, and I could see Tyler loading boxes into my dad's old pickup truck. The Tesla was already gone, repossessed 2 weeks earlier. Dad's business went bankrupt the following week. All his equipment, his truck, his tools, everything got auctioned off to pay creditors. The man who used to employ 6 people was suddenly unemployed at 55 with no prospects and massive debt. Tyler had to sell his camera equipment, his expensive computer setup, and anything else of value he owned. The downtown loft was history, obviously. All 3 of them are now crammed into a 2-bedroom apartment in the worst part of town that costs $1,400 per month they can't afford. Meanwhile, I just closed on a $750,000 house in the best neighborhood in town. 4 bedrooms, 3 bathrooms, 2-car garage, and a backyard perfect for the pool I'm installing next month. The master bedroom alone is bigger than their entire apartment. The house has a home office where I manage my real estate portfolio, a wine cellar for my growing collection, and a 3-car garage for my Porsche, my new BMW M3, and whatever toy I decide to buy next. Everything they dreamed of having but never worked for. The beautiful irony is that I could have easily bailed them out. $180,000 is honestly pocket change to me now. I make more than that in a good quarter from my rental properties alone. But some lessons can only be learned the hard way. My mom keeps creating new email addresses to contact me because I blocked all her old ones. The messages are getting increasingly desperate and pathetic. Last week, she sent a 20-paragraph email explaining how she finally understands what she did wrong and begging for one last chance to make things right. My dad shows up at my office sometimes, looking more broken each time. My assistant has strict instructions to have security escort him out immediately. The last time he came, he was wearing clothes I recognized from 10 years ago and looked like he'd lost 20 pounds. Success suits me much better than poverty suits him. Tyler sent me a 15-page handwritten letter that reads like something a prisoner would write to a parole board. He explained how sorry he is, how he understands now what real work looks like, and outlined a detailed plan for how he would earn my respect back by getting a minimum wage job and paying me back $50 per month for the rest of his life. The letter was particularly pathetic because he kept referring to me as the smart one and himself as the screw-up. He promised to never ask for anything again if I would just help them this one time and swore he'd spend the rest of his life proving he could be the brother you deserve. But you know what? Forget all of them. They had 27 years to treat me like I mattered. They chose not to. Now they get to live with the consequences while I live my best life. Last week I was at the country club I just joined. Membership fee, $25,000. when I overheard two guys talking about this local family that lost everything. They were describing how the dad's plumbing business failed and they had to move into some apartment complex on the wrong side of town. I didn't say anything, but I smiled knowing they were talking about my parents. In a town this size, everyone knows everyone's business. My family went from being the couple with the successful entrepreneur son to being the cautionary tale about financial irresponsibility and parental favoritism gone wrong. Here's the part that makes this revenge absolutely perfect. Last month, Tyler got a job at Home Depot, the same store where I worked part-time in college. The manager who hired him is someone I know well from my contractor relationships. Apparently, Tyler had to explain during his interview why a 26-year-old man with no work history needed an entry-level retail job. The manager told me Tyler broke down crying during the interview, talking about how his family lost everything, and he needed to become a real man and support his parents. Tyler is now making $12 per hour doing the same work I did 7 years ago, except I was also going to school full-time and building a future. My mom got a job at a nail salon making $9 per hour plus tips. This woman who hasn't worked in 25 years is now doing pedicures for tips. She has to stand on her feet 8 hours a day serving the same type of wealthy women she used to pretend to be. My dad is working for one of his former competitors, doing basic plumbing repairs for $18 per hour. The man who used to own his own business is now taking orders from guys he used to compete against. His former employees make more money than he does now. The three of them together make less in a month than I spend on mortgage payments. They're living paycheck to paycheck while I'm building generational wealth. Some people might think I'm being too harsh. But here's the thing. They never loved me. They loved the idea of what I could do for them once they realized I was useful. That's not family. That's just parasites with shared DNA. My parents said my daughter wasn't invited to Thanksgiving because we don't need another distraction. So I hosted my own. Half the family showed up at my place. Instead, and by midnight, Mom showed up crying. Sup, Reddit. My parents told me 2 weeks ago that my 7-year-old daughter wasn't invited to Thanksgiving because she was too much of a distraction. So I cooked dinner at my place. An hour into their perfect meal, my relatives started showing up at my door. By the time dessert rolled around, I had 9 people in my living room, and my parents had maybe 4. At midnight, my mother pulled up crying with a photo album. But I'm getting ahead of myself. I'm Jake, 32 male, and I'm an electrician in the Chicago suburbs. I pull in around $73,000 a year, which is decent money. I own a small 3-bedroom house in Naperville that I bought 5 years ago for $287,000. I've got a daughter named Lily, who just turned 7 in September. She's got blonde hair, freckles, and more energy than a power plant. She's also the entire reason I get up in the morning. Here's the thing, though. I'm doing this solo. My wife Jessica died 3 years ago in a car accident. She was driving home from her sister's place on a Tuesday afternoon when some kid texting and driving blew through a red light at 60 miles per hour. She died instantly. Lily was 2 years old. I had to learn how to do ponytails, pack lunches, and explain why mommy wasn't coming home. You know, typical 29-year-old stuff. My parents are Richard and Linda. Dad's 64, retired from some middle management position at a pharmaceutical company. Mom's 62, never worked, spent her whole life being a homemaker. They live in Wheaton in this big colonial house they bought in 1991. 4 bedrooms, finished basement, the works. Probably worth around $520,000 now. They're practical people, not huggers, not the I love you types. They show affection by fixing your sink or sending you a check when your transmission dies. After Jessica died, they sent a casserole, one of those disposable aluminum pan jobs from the grocery store deli section. It came with a card that had a generic message about thoughts and prayers during this difficult time. The kind of card you grab from the rack without reading it. That was it. No phone calls, no visits, no, hey Jake, how are you holding up? No, can we take Lily for the weekend so you can breathe? Nothing. I figured they were processing it their own way. Grief makes people weird. I gave them space. I had a 2-year-old to keep alive, and my own head was barely above water. I didn't have the energy to manage their emotions too. But here's where it gets interesting. I've always been the dependable kid, the one who shows up when called. My brother Brandon is 2 years older, married to this woman Vanessa, who works in pharmaceutical sales and never shuts up about her company's latest product launch. They don't have kids. They have dinner parties with cheese boards and wine pairings. They vacation in Napa Valley. They're my parents' pride and joy. Me? I'm the spare, the backup, the one who gets called at 11:47 p.m. on a Saturday when Dad's car won't start in a restaurant parking lot. The one who drives 40 minutes in January to reset mom's Wi-Fi router because she can't figure it out. The one who helped Brandon move furniture up 3 flights of stairs when he bought his condo, then never got paid back the $200 for pizza and the U-Haul rental I covered. I kept a spreadsheet of every time I helped my family over the past 5 years. Started it 2 years ago when I realized I was starting to feel used. It's got 47 entries. Everything from fixed mom's garbage disposal, 2.5 hours, to drove dad to orthopedist appointment when his knee was bad, took personal day off work, lost $284 in wages. The thing that really gets me? The total at the bottom, 214 hours. That's over 5 full work weeks I've given to people who couldn't be bothered to check on me after my wife died. Some highlights from the spreadsheet. February 2022. Rewired Brandon's basement when he was finishing it. 8 hours on a Saturday. He paid the contractor $3,200 for the job, but didn't pay me anything. Said family doesn't charge family. Meanwhile, he'd charged me $600 to consult on my home office setup the year before. July 2022. Mom's central air died during a heat wave. 94 degrees outside. I drove over at 6:30 a.m. before my shift, diagnosed the problem, drove to 3 different supply stores to find the part, came back and fixed it. Took 6 hours total. She made me a sandwich, white bread and deli turkey, didn't even offer to pay for the part, which cost me $187.43 out of pocket. November 2022. Dad needed help moving furniture from the garage to the basement. Called me on Thanksgiving morning. Yeah, Thanksgiving morning. I went over at 10 a.m., moved a couch, 2 dressers, and a bunch of boxes. Missed half of Lily's morning because she wanted to watch cartoons with me. When I got back, she asked where I went. I told her Grandpa needed help. She asked why Grandpa didn't help me when Mommy died. I had no answer for that. April 2023. Brandon's car broke down on the highway at 11:47 p.m. on a Tuesday. He called me, not a tow truck. I drove 35 minutes to get him. Waited with him for AAA. Drove him home. Got back to my house at 2:13 a.m. Had to be at work at 6 a.m. I was running on 3 hours of sleep and downed 4 energy drinks that day just to function. He texted me, "Thanks, bro," the next afternoon. Never mentioned it again. Every single time I showed up. Every single time I dropped what I was doing. And when Jessica died? Radio silence. Let me break this down for you. This past year has been the worst for the distance between us. January. Lily's 6th birthday party. I invited my parents. They came for 30 minutes. Didn't bring a gift. Left before cake. Said they had prior commitments. Found out later from Brandon they went to see a matinee showing of some movie. Not an emergency. Not a doctor's appointment. A movie they could have seen literally any other day. When Lily asked where Grandma and Grandpa went, I told her they had to leave early. She asked if she did something wrong. She was 5 years old asking if she was the problem. I told her no, they just had somewhere to be. But kids aren't stupid. She knew. March. Lily had a spring concert at school. She was singing in the front row, this big solo part in some song about butterflies. 2 lines, but she practiced them for 3 weeks straight. Sang them in the car, in the bathtub, at bedtime. She was so proud. I texted my parents the details 3 weeks in advance. Sent a reminder 1 week before. Sent another reminder the day before. They didn't show. Not even a text saying they couldn't make it. Just ghosted. When I called Mom after and asked why, she said, "Oh, honey, we forgot. We had that thing with the neighbors. The neighbors. The people they see literally every week. Took priority over their granddaughter's first solo. April, Easter. Mom invited us to brunch at their house. Said it was important to have family together. We showed up at 11 a.m. like she asked. She'd made this big spread. Ham, scalloped potatoes, rolls, fruit salad. Brandon and Vanessa were already there. Vanessa immediately started talking about some conference she went to in Denver. For 45 minutes straight, Mom hung on every word, asked questions, looked fascinated. Lily tried to tell Grandma about a book she was reading at school. Mom said, "That's nice, sweetie," without looking at her. Literally didn't make eye contact. Just kept watching Vanessa talk. We left at 1:30 p.m. Mom didn't notice we were gone until I texted her at 3 p.m. saying thanks for brunch. June. Father's Day. I took Lily to their house. Brought a card she'd made with crayon drawings and handprints. She'd written, "I love you, Grandpa," in her messy kid handwriting. She was so excited to give it to him. Practically bouncing. Dad opened it, said, "That's nice," and set it on the counter. Didn't read the inside. Didn't comment on the drawing. Just set it down like it was junk mail. When I went to get napkins from the kitchen 20 minutes later, it was in the trash. Face down. right on top where I could see it. Not even buried, like he'd thrown it away immediately after we left the room. I didn't say anything. I grabbed that card out of the trash, wiped off some coffee grounds, and took it home. It's in a frame in Lily's room now. She doesn't know I rescued it. July. Lily asked if she could have a sleepover at Grandma and Grandpa's house. Her friend Mia from school had a sleepover at her grandparents' house and came back with stories about making cookies and staying up late watching movies. Lily wanted that. I called Mom to ask. She said, "Oh, Jake, we're not really set up for that. We don't have the right things for a child. Maybe when she's older." They have a 4-bedroom house. 3 of those bedrooms are empty. They have a TV in every room. They have a kitchen full of food, but they're not set up for it. September. Lily's 7th birthday. Another party. This time, they didn't come at all. Mom called 2 hours after it started and said they were under the weather. Her voice sounded fine. No cough, no congestion, just under the weather. I said okay and hung up. Saw Brandon's Instagram story that night at 8:47 p.m. He was at their house playing cards with them. All 3 of them looking perfectly healthy. Brandon's holding a beer. Mom's laughing at something. Dad's shuffling cards. The timestamp said 7:32 p.m., right when Lily was opening presents at her party, asking where Grandma and Grandpa were. I screenshotted that story, saved it to my phone. I don't even know why. Maybe because I knew someday I'd need proof that I wasn't imagining this. October. School was doing Grandparents' Day. Lily asked if Grandma and Grandpa could come. She'd been talking about it for 2 weeks. Made them drawings. Wrote them invitations in art class. I called Mom to ask. She said, "Oh, Jake, that's really not our thing. You understand." I asked what she meant by not our thing. She said, "You know, sitting in those little chairs, all those kids running around, it's just not for us." I told her it was 1 hour. 1 hour out of her entire week. She said she'd think about it. Never called back. I told Lily they were busy with doctor appointments. She cried for an hour. Asked if they didn't like her. I told her of course they liked her. But I don't know if I believed it anymore. The thing is, they're not busy. They're retired. They play golf on Tuesdays and Thursdays. They go to church on Sundays. They have dinner with their friends the Mitchells every Friday at that Italian place on Roosevelt Road. They go to the movies on Wednesday afternoons when tickets are cheaper. They have time. They just don't want to spend it with us. With Lily specifically. Because Lily reminds them of Jessica, and dealing with that is apparently too hard. Easier to just pretend we don't exist. Picture this. It's November 8th, 2024, 7:23 p.m. I'm making Lily mac and cheese for dinner, the box kind with the powder cheese she likes. My phone rings. Mom's name pops up. She never calls. We text maybe twice a month, and it's usually me texting her. I answer. No small talk. She gets right to it. "Jake, I wanted to let you know about Thanksgiving this year." I'm thinking, okay, what time should we arrive? Should I bring something? Normal Thanksgiving planning stuff. She continues. "We've decided to keep it small this year. Just adults. We're looking for a more peaceful dinner, more intimate, less chaotic." I stop stirring the mac and cheese. What does that mean? It means we're doing adults only. No children. I let that sit for a second. "You're saying Lily can't come." "It's not personal, Jake. We just want a quiet evening. Last year was very stressful with the spill incident, and we'd like to avoid that kind of situation." For context, last Thanksgiving, Lily accidentally knocked over a bowl of cranberry sauce. It spilled on Mom's white tablecloth, the one she only brings out for holidays. Lily was devastated. She cried. I cleaned it up with paper towels while everyone sat there in silence like I'd committed a crime. We left 30 minutes later. The stain came out, by the way. I know because Mom sent me a text 2 days later complaining about it. I asked her, "Is Brandon's wife coming?" "Of course Vanessa is coming, but my daughter isn't." "Vanessa is an adult, Jake. It's different. She's my kid, Mom. She's your granddaughter. And I love her very much. This isn't about love. This is about having a pleasant holiday. You understand. You can get a babysitter. Come by yourself. It'll be nice, just adults." Here's where I should tell you. I didn't yell. I didn't argue. I didn't beg. I just said, "Okay, thanks for letting me know." And I hung up at 7:31 p.m. Lily asked who was on the phone. I told her Grandma was planning Thanksgiving. She asked if we were going. I told her we were doing our own thing this year, just the 2 of us. She got excited, asked if we could have chicken nuggets with the turkey. I said absolutely. For the next 2 weeks, I didn't call my parents back. Didn't text. Nothing. Brandon called me on November 15th, asked if I was coming to Thanksgiving like nothing had happened. Like Mom hadn't just uninvited my kid from a family holiday. I told him, "Mom said it's adults only." Lily's not invited. Long pause. Then he laughed. Not a mean laugh. More like a confused one. Dude, you're taking this too seriously. She just wants a calm dinner. Just get a sitter. Come hang out. Is Vanessa coming? Obviously. Then it's not adults only. It's everyone except my daughter. Another pause. Look, man, she's 7. She's young. Maybe next year when she's older and can sit still for more than 5 minutes. I hung up on him at exactly 11:42 a.m. My hands were shaking. The thing about Brandon is he's never had to be the one left out. He's never had to explain to his kid why they're not wanted. He's never had to be the afterthought. He's the golden child. Always has been. Perfect grades, perfect job, perfect marriage. Meanwhile, I'm the screw-up who got his girlfriend pregnant at 24 and had to get married at City Hall instead of throwing some big wedding. Never mind that Jessica and I were actually happy. Never mind that we built a good life together. Never mind that I'm raising a kid solo after a tragedy. I decided right then I was making Thanksgiving for Lily. Just us. And it was going to be perfect. I went to the grocery store on November 20th. Not a big chain. There's this local butcher shop called Kowalski's on Jefferson Avenue that's been there since 1982. I bought a 12-pound fresh turkey for $47.88. I bought real butter, fresh herbs, good rolls from the bakery section. I bought ingredients for stuffing, mashed potatoes, green beans, cranberry sauce from scratch. I bought a pumpkin pie from the bakery across the street, the one with the blue awning where they know Lily's name because we go there for donuts on Saturdays. Total grocery bill, $168.34. I also bought decorations, paper turkeys, an autumn leaf tablecloth, cloth napkins, a centerpiece with little plastic pilgrims, candles that smelled like cinnamon. I bought sparkling apple cider in a fancy glass bottle that cost $12.99. I wanted it to feel special. I wanted Lily to remember this. She helped me set the table the night before. She arranged the paper turkeys in a line. She folded the napkins into triangles, her tongue sticking out while she concentrated. She put the candles in the middle and asked if we could light them during dinner. I said absolutely. Thanksgiving morning, I got up at 5:47 a.m., put the turkey in the oven, set the timer, started peeling potatoes at the sink. The kitchen smelled like butter and herbs and everything good. Lily came downstairs around 8:30 a.m. in her pajamas. We watched the parade together on the couch. She pointed at every balloon and asked me what character it was. It was peaceful. Easy. Just us. At 11:04 a.m., my phone buzzed. Text from Brandon. Have a good day, man. Sorry you're not here. Mom's asking about you. I didn't reply. Here's where it gets good. At 12:37 p.m., my doorbell rang. I wasn't expecting anyone. Lily looked at me, confused. I went to the door. My cousin Rachel was standing there. She's 29, works as a paralegal downtown. She was holding a casserole dish covered in foil. Her husband Tom was behind her with a bottle of sparkling grape juice and a bag of rolls. She said, "We heard you were doing your own thing this year. Mind if we join?" I just stared at her for a second. How did you know? Brandon mentioned it, that you and Lily were staying home because of the whole adults-only thing. And Tom and I talked about it last night. We'd rather be here than listen to Vanessa talk about her trip to Vancouver for 3 hours while pretending that banning a 7-year-old from Thanksgiving is normal. I laughed. First time I'd laughed in weeks. Let them in. Tom asked if he could help with anything. I told him to open the sparkling juice and find glasses. Rachel asked Lily what she'd been coloring. Lily showed her the picture. A turkey, a house, some stick figures labeled, me and Daddy and Aunt Rachel and Uncle Tom. At 1:15 p.m., the doorbell rang again. My Aunt Linda, Mom's sister. She's 58, works as a school nurse. She was holding a homemade apple pie in a glass dish. Her son Kevin was with her, carrying a bag of fresh rolls and a container of cranberry sauce. Linda said, "I heard what your mother did. I'm not sitting through another holiday pretending that woman's behavior is acceptable." She walked in without waiting for me to respond. Kevin squeezed my shoulder as he passed. Said, "Good to see you, man." By 1:47 p.m., I had 9 people in my house. Rachel and Tom, Linda and Kevin, my cousin Jenna and her girlfriend Amy, my uncle Paul, and a family friend named Beth, who'd heard through Jenna and just showed up with a green bean casserole. 9 people who chose to be there, who walked away from my parents' perfect adult dinner to sit in my cramped living room and eat off mismatched plates. We crammed around my small dining table, used folding chairs from the garage, knees touching, elbows bumping. Lily sat between Rachel and Jenna, absolutely glowing. She told stories about school, about her teacher, Miss Peterson, about her best friend Hannah who could do a cartwheel. She was the center of attention, and she loved every second of it. I carved the turkey at the table. The knife was sharp. The meat was tender. Perfect. That turkey I'd stressed over for hours? Golden brown, juicy, better than any turkey my mother had ever made. The stuffing had just the right amount of herbs. Sage, thyme, a little rosemary. The mashed potatoes were creamy with real butter and heavy cream. None of that instant box stuff. The green beans had bacon and caramelized onions. Linda's cranberry sauce had orange zest in it that made it pop. Rachel heated up her casserole in my oven. Sweet potato with a pecan crumble topping that smelled like heaven. Linda sliced her pie, the lattice crust perfect and golden. Tom poured sparkling juice for everyone, including Lily in a real wine glass with a napkin wrapped around the base like she was fancy. Kevin told Dad jokes that made everyone groan. Lily tried everything. She's normally picky, won't touch vegetables, turns her nose up at anything that looks weird. But she was so happy she tried foods she usually won't touch. Ate 3 helpings of stuffing. Asked for seconds of mashed potatoes. Even tried the green beans and said they were actually pretty good, Daddy. We ate. We laughed. We told stories about past Thanksgivings. About the time Uncle Paul fell asleep at the table and started snoring so loud it woke him up. About the time someone's dog ate half the turkey before anyone noticed and everyone just pretended it was fine and ate around the missing section. About the time it snowed so hard everyone got stuck at Grandma's house for 2 days and played board games until midnight. Tom told a story about the first Thanksgiving he went to Rachel's parents' house and accidentally called her dad Greg for 4 hours. His name is Glenn. Everyone was too polite to correct him. He didn't find out until they were driving home and Rachel was crying from laughing so hard. Kevin told a story about the time he tried to deep fry a turkey in college and almost burned down his apartment building. Fire department came. He was banned from using the communal kitchen for the rest of the year. Beth, the family friend who'd just shown up, told us about her grandmother who used to make 7 different pies for Thanksgiving. 7. Apple, pumpkin, pecan, cherry, lemon meringue, chocolate cream, and something called mystery pie that no one could ever identify but everyone loved. She'd been trying to recreate that mystery pie recipe for 15 years. Still hasn't figured it out. Her theory is it had cardamom in it, but she's not sure. The conversations overlapped. People talked over each other. Lily's laugh cut through everything, high and clear and happy. She asked if we could do this every year. Rachel said absolutely. Kevin said he was already planning his dish for next year. Jenna said she'd bring her famous mac and cheese, the one with 4 different cheeses and a breadcrumb topping. This is what it was supposed to feel like. This is what family was supposed to be. Not silent dinners where you're afraid to laugh too loud. Not carefully curated gatherings where children are inconveniences. Not performances where everyone pretends to be happy. This. Chaos. Laughter. Food being passed. Someone spilling something and everyone helping clean it up without making it a big deal. Lily being herself without anyone telling her to be quiet or sit still or stop being so much. My phone buzzed at 2:34 p.m. Text from Brandon. Mom's asking if I've heard from you. She seemed stressed. I didn't reply. Took another bite of turkey. At 2:51 p.m., another buzz. Brandon again. Dude, seriously, is everything okay? She's kind of freaking out. I typed back, everything's great here. 9 people. Best meal I've ever made. Everyone's happy. Tell Mom thanks for the motivation. Read receipt showed he saw it at 2:53 p.m. 3 dots appeared. Disappeared. Appeared again. Disappeared. He never replied. At 3:04 p.m. my phone buzzed. Text from Mom. Hope you're having a nice day. I stared at it. 6 words. That's all she could manage. 6 words that meant nothing. She wasn't actually hoping I was having a nice day. She was checking to make sure I wasn't making a scene. Making sure I was staying in line. Making sure I wasn't causing trouble. Making sure people weren't talking. At 3:17 p.m., another text. This one from Dad. Your mother is upset you're not here. You should call her. This is family. You're being selfish. I set the phone face down on the counter. Rachel noticed. Asked if I was okay. I told her it was just my parents checking in to make sure I knew they were disappointed. She said, they don't deserve you, Jake. You're a good dad. They can't see it. At 3:42 p.m., the doorbell rang again. I figured maybe it was another relative who'd heard. Maybe Kevin had texted someone. It was Brandon. He was standing on my porch in dress pants and a button-down shirt, hands in his pockets, looking uncomfortable. He said, Mom and Dad asked me to check on you. Make sure you weren't, quote, doing anything stupid. Why would they think I'm doing something stupid? He shrugged. Because you didn't answer their texts. Because half the family apparently bailed on dinner. Because mom's freaking out that people are choosing you over her. How many people are at their house right now? I don't know. Maybe 4? 5? It's pretty dead, honestly. And how many people are here? He looked past me into the house. Saw the table. The people. The plates of food. The wine glasses. Lily laughing with Jenna in the background. Music playing from the speaker on the counter. How many people are here, Jake? 9. And every single one of them chose to be here. He didn't say anything. Just looked at me for a long moment. Then he nodded slowly, turned around, and walked back to his car. I watched him drive away at 3:51 p.m. Turns out, when you make people choose between a controlling parent and basic human decency, some of them surprise you. By 6:30 p.m., everyone had eaten seconds. Some people thirds. The food was gone. The dishes were piled in the sink. Lily and Kevin's daughter Sophie, who'd arrived around 2 p.m., were playing in the backyard. We could hear them through the window, laughing and shrieking. The adults were in the living room, full and tired and happy. Someone had put music on. Old jazz. Miles Davis. Filled the space without demanding attention. At 6:47 p.m., my phone rang. Not a text. A call. From Mom. I excused myself, went into the kitchen, closed the door, answered. Her voice was sharp, angry. The anger of someone used to being obeyed, who suddenly isn't. Why is half the family at your house? Why did they choose you over us? You've ruined Thanksgiving. You've turned people against me. You're making me look bad. They wanted to be here, Mom. I didn't invite them. They came on their own. You're being childish. You're being petty. You're making a statement. You're punishing me for having boundaries. You called my daughter a distraction. You banned her from Thanksgiving. What did you think would happen? I was trying to have a nice dinner. A peaceful meal. I'm allowed to want that. You're overreacting. I'm not overreacting. Lily is my daughter. She's your granddaughter. And if she's not welcome at your table, then neither am I. You're making a scene. People are going to talk. This is embarrassing. The scene was made when you decided a 7-year-old child was too much trouble. When you chose your comfort over family. She started to say something. I didn't let her finish. I'm done, Mom. Done pretending the way you treat us is acceptable. Done being the dependable kid who never complains. Done letting you make Lily feel unwanted. We're done. I hung up at 6:53 p.m. My hands were shaking. My heart was pounding. But I also felt something else. Relief, like I'd finally said what needed to be said. I went back to the living room. Rachel looked at me. Didn't ask. Just smiled and patted the seat next to her. People started leaving around 10 p.m. Rachel hugged me tight, whispered, "You did the right thing." Linda kissed my cheek, said, "I'm proud of you. You're a good father." Kevin shook my hand, said, "Best Thanksgiving I've had in years, man." Jenna hugged Lily, told her she was amazing. By 11:14 p.m., the house was quiet. Lily was asleep on the couch. I carried her to bed. She mumbled something about pumpkin pie and Sophie. I tucked her in, kissed her forehead. I went back downstairs. The house was a mess. Plates everywhere. Crumbs on the floor. Wine glasses on the coffee table. Napkins crumpled. But it was a good mess. A lived-in mess. A mess that meant something. At 12:08 a.m., I heard a car pull up outside. I looked out the window. Recognized it immediately. My mother's silver Honda CR-V. I opened the door before she could knock. Didn't want her waking Lily. She was standing on the porch, eyes red and swollen. She'd been crying. Makeup smudged. She was holding something clutched to her chest. A photo album. One of the old ones with the fake leather cover. She didn't say anything at first. Just stood there. I asked what she was doing here. My voice was flat. Guarded. I needed to talk to you. I couldn't sleep. I had to come. It's past midnight, Mom. Lily's asleep. I don't want to do this now. I know. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Her voice cracked on the word sorry. I didn't move, didn't invite her in, just stood there blocking the doorway. She held out the album. Her hands were shaking. I've been looking through this tonight. After everyone left, after your father went to bed angry, after I sat alone in the kitchen and realized what I'd done, I waited. Didn't help her. I've been avoiding you, avoiding Lily. Because every time I see her, I see Jessica. And it hurts so much I can't breathe. I don't know how to process that. My parents never taught me. They never talked about feelings. They just moved on. And I did the same thing. I pushed you away because it was easier than feeling the pain. She said she was wrong. Said she'd made a terrible mistake. Said she'd let her grief turn her into someone cruel. I took the album. My hands felt numb. Opened it slowly. It was full of pictures I'd never seen. Jessica at our wedding. Young and happy. wearing a white sundress at City Hall because we couldn't afford anything fancy. Lily as a newborn, tiny and red-faced. Jessica holding her in the hospital, tears streaming down her face. Lily's first birthday. Lily at the beach, Lily at Christmas. Jessica and Lily together, always together. Mom had kept every photo I'd ever sent her. I miss her every single day. I miss you. I've made a terrible mistake. I let my grief turn me into someone who hurt the people I love because I couldn't handle my own pain. I felt something shift inside me. The anger was still there, hard and cold, but underneath it was something else. Understanding, not forgiveness. Not yet, but understanding. Why didn't you just tell me? Why didn't you talk to me? I didn't know how. I was ashamed. I thought if I kept moving, kept going, kept pretending, it would get easier. But it never did. I asked if she meant what she said about Lily being a distraction. She shook her head, tears streaming. No. God number. I regret it. Every word. Lily is beautiful and bright and everything good. She reminds me of Jessica in the best way. And that's what scared me. That's what made me push you away. I told her it was going to take time, that I couldn't just forget, that Lily deserved better, that she deserved grandparents who loved her without conditions. She nodded, said she understood, said she would do whatever it took, however long it took, said she wanted to be the grandmother Lily deserved. I asked if she wanted to come in. She hesitated, looked past me into the house, at the mess, at the evidence of the day, then nodded. We sat in the living room, the mess still everywhere, plates on the coffee table, forks with bits of food stuck to them, napkins crumpled, wine glasses with lipstick marks. The candles had burned down to stubs. She looked around, took it all in, the evidence of the day, the proof that people had chosen me over her. She said it looked like people had a good time. Her voice was small, quiet, not the sharp, controlled voice I was used to. I told her they did, that it was the best Thanksgiving I'd had in years, that Lily was happy, that people showed up for us, that 9 people walked away from her dinner to be here instead. She nodded, said she deserved that, said she knew why they left. I've been a terrible mother to you, a terrible grandmother to Lily. I know that now. I didn't disagree. She continued. When Jessica died, I didn't know how to process it. My parents never taught me how to grieve. When my brother died in 1987, my father said, life goes on, and that was it. We never talked about him again. His pictures came down from the walls. His room got cleaned out. We just moved forward like he never existed. I thought that's what you were supposed to do. So you did the same thing to us. Yes, and it was wrong. It was so wrong. Every time I saw Lily, I saw Jessica's eyes, Jessica's smile, Jessica's energy, and it hurt so much I couldn't breathe. So I avoided you both. I told myself it was because I was giving you space, because you needed time to heal. But that was a lie. I was the one who couldn't handle it. We talked for 87 minutes. I checked my watch when she left. 87 minutes of things we should have said 3 years ago. She told me about the day Jessica died, about how she got the call from me at the hospital, about how she dropped the phone, about how she sat on her kitchen floor and couldn't move for an hour, about how Dad found her there and didn't know what to say, about how they drove to the hospital in silence, about how they saw me holding Lily in the waiting room, my face blank with shock, about how they wanted to help but didn't know how, about how they went home that night and never talked about it again. We failed you. We failed Lily. We failed Jessica's memory. I see that now. About the years I'd spent feeling invisible. About showing up for every call, every favor, every emergency. About the 214 hours in my spreadsheet. About Brandon being the golden child while I was the afterthought. About Lily crying because she thought her grandparents didn't like her. She cried through most of it. Real crying. Not delicate tears. Ugly crying. The kind where your face gets blotchy and your nose runs and you can't catch your breath. She said she wanted to try. To be better. To be present. To be the grandmother Lily deserved. To make up for lost time. To rebuild what she'd broken. To earn her way back into our lives. I told her it was going to take time. That I couldn't just forget what she said. What she did. That Lily deserved better than to be treated like an inconvenience. That she deserved grandparents who loved her without conditions. That words weren't enough. That she had to prove it. That she had to show up. Consistently. Not just when it was convenient. She said that was fair. Said she deserved nothing less. Said she would do whatever it took. However long it took. She left at 1:35 a.m. I watched her car pull away. I sat there for a long time, staring at the photo album, thinking about everything. About Jessica, about Lily, about my mother standing on my porch crying, about the years of distance, about the hurt, about the possibility of something different. The anger was still there, but it was quieter now, manageable. Update, 6 months later. A lot of people have messaged asking what happened after. Here's the breakdown. My mother called the next day, asked if she could come over, bring Lily a gift. I said yes, but told her she was apologizing to Lily face to face. She agreed immediately. She showed up at 2:17 p.m. the next day with a book, a story about a grandmother and granddaughter baking together. Lily loved it. Read it 4 times that week. Mom sat down with Lily at the kitchen table, looked her right in the eyes, said, "I'm sorry I haven't been a good grandma. I'm sorry I made you feel like you weren't important. You are the most important thing. I promise to do better." Lily hugged her. Just like that. Kids are better at forgiveness than adults. My father came over eventually too. Brought Lily a stuffed turkey. She named it Gobbles. He didn't say much, but he showed up. That was something. Brandon apologized. Said he didn't realize how bad it had gotten. Said he should have stood up for me. I told him he still could. He's been better since. Still the golden child, but at least he calls now. Vanessa never apologized. Don't expect her to. Don't care. Rachel and I started a new tradition. Thanksgiving at my house. Open to anyone who wants to come. No conditions, no exclusions, just food and family and love. First year after that, 15 people. Second year, 22. We had to set up tables in the living room and dining room. Ran out of chairs. People sat on the floor. It was chaos. It was loud. It was perfect. My mother shows up now. Every time. She comes to Lily's school plays, her soccer games, her birthday parties. She brings gifts. She asks questions. She listens. She's learning. She's trying. And that's enough. In March, she showed up to Lily's spring concert. Front row, holding flowers. Lily sang that same butterfly song, and Mom cried through the whole thing. Took about 200 photos on her phone. Sent them all to me with captions like, "My beautiful granddaughter," and "So proud." In June, she asked if Lily could have that sleepover she'd wanted. Lily spent the night at their house. They made chocolate chip cookies, watched movies. Mom braided Lily's hair. When I picked her up the next morning, Lily talked about it for 3 days. In August, Grandparents' Day at school happened. This time, both my parents showed up, sat in those tiny chairs, read books with the kids, participated in crafts. Mom has a framed picture from that day on her mantle now. Her and Lily holding construction paper turkeys they made together. Dad comes too, plays cards with Lily, teaches her chess, shows up. The relationship isn't perfect. We still have hard days, days when old wounds open. But we keep showing up. We keep trying. Brandon and Vanessa still go to fancy dinners and take trips. Still live their perfect life. But now they also come to our chaotic Thanksgivings. Vanessa even complimented my turkey last year. Only took her 3 years. Lily is 9 now. She's happy. She knows she's wanted. She knows she's loved. She has grandparents who show up, aunts and uncles and cousins who choose her. As for me, I'm good. Still working as an electrician. Still living in the same house. Still raising my kid. But I'm not the dependable one anymore. I'm not the backup plan. I'm not the guy who shows up and gets nothing in return. YouTube just dropped this new hype feature. If you're hooked on this story, smash that hype button. It tells YouTube this video deserves to blow up, and it keeps even crazier stories coming your way. My family cut me off for going to trade school. Now they're begging me to fix their houses for free. Hey Reddit, I never thought I'd be writing one of these posts, but here we are. This story has been eating at me for months now, and I need to get it off my chest. I'm 28, male, and apparently the biggest disappointment my family ever produced. At least that's what they told me for years. Turns out, I might have been the smartest one after all. Let me start from the beginning so you understand the full picture of how messed up my family dynamics were, and how satisfying it was when everything finally came full circle. Growing up, my older brother Marcus, 31, was basically treated like the second coming of Christ in our household. Perfect grades, student council president, academic scholarships, the whole 9 yards. Meanwhile, I was the kid who preferred working with my hands over hitting the books. Don't get me wrong, I wasn't stupid. I just learned better by doing things rather than reading about them. My parents, both college-educated professionals, had this vision of their sons following in their footsteps. Mom's a nurse practitioner, dad's an accountant. They met in college, got their degrees, bought the house in the suburbs, had the careers. The American dream, right? In their minds, college was the only path to success, and anything else was just settling for less. I'll never forget the day in my junior year of high school when I told them I wanted to take shop class instead of AP chemistry. You would have thought I'd announced I was dropping out to become a drug dealer. Shop class? Mom said, looking at me like I'd grown a second head. Why would you want to waste time playing with tools when you could be preparing for college? Dad jumped in immediately. Son, you need to think about your future. College is the only way to make something of yourself these days. You don't want to end up like those guys working construction, breaking their backs for minimum wage. Marcus, who was home from his first year at State University, just smirked from across the dinner table. Come on, little brother. You're smarter than that. Don't you want to have a career you can be proud of? I tried to explain that I actually enjoyed working with my hands, that I was good at building things, fixing things, but they weren't hearing it. To them, manual labor was what people did when they couldn't cut it in the real world. So I took AP Chemistry to keep the peace. Got a C- and hated every minute of it. Things came to a head during my senior year when it was time to apply for colleges. I had decent grades, not Marcus level but solid Bs mostly. I could have gotten into a state school, probably even gotten some financial aid. But I kept thinking about my friend Jake's older brother, who'd gone to trade school for welding and was making $75,000 a year at 22, working on industrial projects and loving what he did. Meanwhile, Marcus was struggling through his engineering program, stressed out of his mind, calling home every week complaining about how hard his classes were, how much debt he was racking up, how he wasn't sure he even liked engineering, but felt trapped because he'd already invested so much time and money. That's when I made the decision that would change everything. I applied to the local community college's welding program. 2-year certification, hands-on training, job placement assistance, and I could do it for a fraction of the cost of a 4-year degree. It seemed like a no-brainer to me. When I told my parents at dinner, the reaction was explosive. Absolutely not, Dad said immediately. I'm not paying for you to learn to be a welder. That's not a career. That's a job. There's a difference, Mom added. A career is something you build on, something with growth potential. Welding is just manual labor. Marcus, who was home for spring break and still complaining about his classes, actually laughed. Dude, welding? Seriously? You want to spend your life in some dirty shop, breathing in fumes, when you could have a real profession? It is a real profession, I said, trying to keep my voice calm. Good welders make excellent money. Industrial welders can make 6 figures. There's always going to be demand for— Oh, please, Mom interrupted. Those are rare exceptions. Most welders are barely getting by. Look, if money is tight, we can figure out student loans for you to go to state like Marcus. It's an investment in your future. That's when Dad dropped the ultimatum that changed everything. Here's the deal, son. If you want to throw your life away learning to be a welder, that's your choice. But don't expect us to pay for it. And don't expect us to pretend we're proud of you for settling for less than your potential. The room went dead silent. Even Marcus looked uncomfortable. So if I go to trade school, I said slowly, you won't support me? Why would we support you making a bad decision? Dad replied. Sometimes tough love is what it takes. You'll thank us later when you realize we were right and you decide to get a real education. I looked around the table at my family. Mom was nodding along with Dad. Marcus was staring at his plate, not meeting my eyes. None of them believed in me. None of them thought I could make something of myself doing what I actually wanted to do. Fine, I said, standing up from the table. I'll do it myself. And I did. I moved out a week after graduation, found a crappy studio apartment across town, got a warehouse job, and enrolled in welding school using my grandparents' graduation money and a small community college loan I qualified for myself. The first months were brutal, working 30 hours weekly, school full-time, learning completely new skills. My hands were constantly cut up. I was exhausted, living on ramen and peanut butter sandwiches. But I loved it. For the first time, I was learning something that made sense. The instructors were industry veterans who taught not just welding, but business fundamentals. Bidding jobs, working with employers, starting your own company someday. Meanwhile, my family wrote me off. Mom called occasionally. It's not too late to change your mind. You could still apply for spring semester at state. Dad wouldn't talk to me. Marcus texted condescending messages like, how's the blue-collar life treating you? I stopped responding. The turning point came second semester when instructor Jerry Martinez pulled me aside. You've got real talent. But more than that, you understand the business side. You're not just learning a trade, you're building a career. Jerry had run his own fabrication business for 15 years. He offered me part-time work at his shop with better pay than the warehouse and real-world experience. Start thinking beyond welding, he advised. Learn fabrication, basic electrical, take business classes. Successful contractors aren't just welders, they're problem solvers. I took evening business classes during my second year, learning contracts, insurance, Pricing strategies. I started taking side jobs. Neighbors repairs, custom pieces, car welding. Small money, but building reputation. By graduation, I had certification, 2 years experience, satisfied customers, and a plan. Jerry was retiring and offered to sell me his equipment and customer list for $45,000. Professional gear, and 15 years of business relationships. With my $15,000 savings and a small business loan, I became a business owner at 20. Marcus had just graduated state with his engineering degree and $80,000 in loans. He struggled finding work, eventually taking a manufacturing job paying $42,000, barely more than I made part-time welding in school. When I called home about buying Jerry's business, Mom said, "That's nice, honey, but it's still not too late for real school. You could get your degree and have a real career." I hung up and didn't call back for 6 months. The first year was a grind, but my grind. I worked 60-hour weeks, took unwanted jobs, never refused learning opportunities. I specialized in custom fabrication and repairs, jobs requiring creativity and problem solving. My reputation grew through delivering more than expected and solving problems others couldn't. By year 2, I was booked solid. Year 3, 4 employees and a real shop. I got electrical certification, added plumbing basics, offered complete fabrication services. We became the guys you called for unsolvable problems. By 24, I was clearing $150,000 profit yearly, owned a house and new truck, with money banked and industry respect. Marcus bounced between engineering jobs, lived with roommates, made loan payments that never seemed to shrink, constantly complaining his degree hadn't prepared him for reality. My parents still acted like Marcus was the success story, and I'd settled for less. The first crack in my family's delusion came 5 years into running my business. I was 25, and we just landed our biggest contract yet, $300,000 to fabricate custom architectural metalwork for a downtown office building. Marcus had just been laid off from his third engineering job, company downsizing. He was panicking about student loan payments and rent. He called me for the first time in over a year. "Hey, little brother, how's the welding thing going?" he said, trying to sound casual. "It's going well," I said carefully. I'd learned not to share much with family. They always found ways to minimize my success. "That's cool. Listen, I'm between jobs right now. I was thinking maybe I could help out, temporarily, just until I find another engineering position." This was the same brother who'd called welding not a real profession for years. Now he wanted a job. "What kind of help?" I asked. "Well, I've got an engineering degree. I could help with the technical side, maybe help you bid bigger projects, bring some professional expertise to the operation." Even asking for help, he couldn't resist implying my business lacked professional expertise. "Marcus, do you have experience with welding, fabrication, construction project management?" "Well, no, but engineering principles are engineering principles. I could learn the specifics quickly." "And you'd want an engineering salary?" "I've got loans to pay. I was making $55,000 at my last job, so something in that range would be helpful. 55,000 plus benefits for someone with no industry experience who'd need months of training before contributing anything meaningful." "I'll think about it," I said. I didn't call back. 2 weeks later, Mom called. "We need to talk about Marcus. Family is supposed to help family." I considered his request. "It's just not a good fit. Because you're jealous of his education, his potential. You've always resented that Marcus was the smart one, and now you're getting revenge." Even with Marcus unemployed and me running a successful business, she still thought he was the smart one. "Mom, his degree doesn't teach him to read architectural plans, manage construction schedules, or operate fabrication equipment. Those skills take years to develop. So teach him. That's what family does." Would Marcus have hired me at his engineering jobs? "That's different." "How?" She couldn't answer. The real turning point came when I was 26. I'd bought a larger shop, hired my 8th employee, and was doing over $2 million in revenue annually. Marcus had found a new job but taken a step backward, $38,000 at a small firm, still living with roommates, still drowning in debt. Meanwhile, my parents' house was falling apart. They'd bought it in 1995, and by 2019, it was showing its age badly. Rotting deck, leaking roof, outdated electrical, constant plumbing backups. Dad called on a Saturday morning, first time in over 2 years. "Son, we've got a situation. The deck finally collapsed. Your mother almost fell through yesterday. We need it fixed, but the quotes are astronomical." "How astronomical?" "Lowest bid is $8,000 just for the deck. One guy said $15,000 for everything. After years of dismissing my career as not real work, now they wanted to benefit from it. We know you do this kind of work now. We were hoping you could help us out. Family rates, you know? I drove over the next day. I hadn't been there in almost a year and was shocked. The deck wasn't just rotting. It was a legitimate safety hazard with completely failed support beams. Walking around, I spotted a dozen major issues. Missing roof shingles, water damage, ancient electrical panel, cracked driveway destroying their cars. How long has it been like this? I asked. Oh, you know, old houses. Always something needing attention. Dad, this isn't something. This is thousands in deferred maintenance. The electrical panel needs complete replacement before you have a house fire. I spent an hour doing a comprehensive assessment. Immediate safety issues, deck, electrical, emergency roof repairs, would run $25,000. Full renovation, $80,000. I priced everything exactly as I would for any customer, actually more thoroughly, because I knew the problems and wanted everything done right. Dad called an hour after receiving my $24,500 bid. This has got to be a mistake. These prices are more than the other guys quoted. Dad, this includes work they didn't even mention. They quoted just deck replacement. This includes bringing your electrical to code and using materials that actually last. But your family. We thought you'd give us a deal. Dad, this is my business. These prices reflect actual costs. People help their families. Like how you helped when I was starting my business? Silence. I'll give you the same family rates I give all my family, I said finally. Great. What's the discount? There is no discount, Dad. My family rates equal my regular rates. Because my family never supported my business. That afternoon, I drove over to my neighbor Bill's house. Bill was a retired teacher who lived 2 doors down from me. 6 months earlier, he'd asked me to build a custom ramp for his wife, who was in a wheelchair. It was a small job, maybe $800 in materials and a day's work. But Bill was on a fixed income and worried about the cost. I'd done the job for free, not because he was family, but because he was a good neighbor who'd always been kind to me, and because his wife needed the ramp to safely access their home. When Bill tried to pay me, I'd told him the only payment I wanted was for him to pass on the favor someday when he could help someone else. That's what family actually looks like. It's not about blood relations or sharing a last name. It's about people who support each other, who believe in each other, who are there when it matters. Over the years, I'd built a real family. Jerry, who'd mentored me and given me the chance to buy his business. My employees who'd grown with the company and trusted me to make decisions that kept us all working. My customers, who'd referred friends and family because they trusted the quality of our work. My neighbors, who'd become genuine friends. These people had supported me when my actual family wouldn't. They'd celebrated my successes and helped me through challenges. Bill wasn't the only neighbor I'd helped over the years. Mrs. Chen across the street had needed her front gate repaired after a storm. I'd done it for the cost of materials. The young couple next to her had wanted a custom fire pit for their backyard. I'd built it at cost as a wedding present. These weren't business decisions. They were family decisions. Dad called back 3 days later. We've decided to go with another contractor, he said. We found someone who can do the deck for $6,000. That's great, I said. I hope it works out. You don't sound like you think it will. I didn't, actually. A $6,000 deck job meant either substandard materials, corners being cut on the foundation work, or both, but it wasn't my problem anymore. I hope I'm wrong, I said. 2 months later, Marcus called me. Dude, you need to see Mom and Dad's deck. Why? Because it's already falling apart. The contractor they hired used pressure-treated lumber that was still wet. The whole thing is warping and pulling apart. Dad's furious. I wasn't surprised. Wet lumber should never be used for structural work, especially outdoor structures. Any legitimate contractor would have known that. Are they going to call the guy back to fix it? They tried. His phone's disconnected. I think he was fly-by-night. That sucks. The thing is, Marcus continued, they're kind of in a bind. They spent their savings on this deck, and now they need to basically start over. Mom's been crying about it for weeks. I waited to see where this was going. Maybe you could help them out? I know there was some drama about the pricing before, but they're family, and they're kind of desperate. Marcus, I said, are you asking me to fix a deck for free after they chose someone else because my prices were too high? Not for free, but maybe you could work with them on the pricing? They've learned their lesson about going cheap? I had to give him credit for audacity. Have they called me? I asked. Well, no, I think they're embarrassed. Then why are you calling me? Because you're my brother, and they're our parents. Family is supposed to help family. That phrase again. The same one Mom had used when she wanted me to hire Marcus. The same logic Dad had used when he wanted a discount. Family is supposed to help family, but only when they needed something from me. Marcus, I said, where was this attitude when I was starting my business and eating ramen noodles in a studio apartment? That was different. How? You were making a choice we couldn't support, and they made a choice I can't support. Hiring the cheapest bidder instead of trusting the son who's built a successful business, doing exactly this kind of work. Come on, man. You're really going to hold a grudge? I'm not holding a grudge. I'm running a business. If they want to hire me, they can call me directly and we can discuss it. Just like any other customer. He hung up on me. The call I'd been expecting finally came 3 weeks later. It was Mom. Honey, she said, and I could hear the tears in her voice. We need your help. With what? The deck situation has gotten worse. We had a home inspector come out, and he says we can't use it at all. It's structurally unsafe. We need to tear it down and start over. Okay. The problem is we don't have the money. We spent our savings on the first contractor, and the insurance won't cover it because it was faulty workmanship. I waited. We were hoping. Maybe you could help us. We know we made a mistake before. We should have trusted you from the beginning. What kind of help are you looking for? Well, you do this kind of work. Maybe you could do it at cost. Just materials and labor for your guys, no profit markup. Even now, even when they were desperate, she was still trying to get a discount. Mom, I said, let me ask you something. When Marcus was in college and he needed help with tuition, did you charge him interest on the money you loaned him? Of course not. He's our son. When he was unemployed last year and he needed to move back home for a few months, did you charge him rent? That's different. He was going through a hard time. I've been going through hard times too. The difference is, you didn't help me through mine. We've explained this. We couldn't support a decision we disagreed with, and I can't support a family that only values me when they need something. There was a long silence. So you won't help us? She said finally. I didn't say that. I said I won't give you a discount. If you want to hire my company, I'll put together a bid just like I would for any customer. Professional work, fair pricing, quality guarantee. But we can't afford your regular rates. Then maybe you need to find a way to afford them, or find another solution. How can you be so cold to your own family? And that's when years of frustration finally came pouring out. Cold? I said. Mom, I haven't heard from you in 6 months. The last time we talked, you asked me to hire Marcus for a job he wasn't qualified for, and when I explained why that wouldn't work, you accused me of being jealous. The time before that, you told me it wasn't too late to give up my business and go to college like I should have in the first place. She was quiet. I've been running a successful business for 6 years. I own my own home. I employ 8 people who depend on me for their livelihoods. I've built something I'm proud of, using skills you told me were worthless. And the only time any of you call me is when you want something. That's not true. When's the last time you asked me how business was going? When's the last time you congratulated me on a successful project? When's the last time any of you showed any interest in my life beyond what I could do for you? She couldn't answer. But you know what the really sad part is? I continued. I've been giving family rates all along, just not to you. What do you mean? 3 months ago, I rebuilt Mrs. Chen's front porch for the cost of materials. Last year, I built a wheelchair ramp for Bill down the street and wouldn't let him pay me at all. 2 weeks ago, I spent a Saturday helping the Rodriguez family fix their fence after that storm. Didn't charge them a penny. Why would you do work for free for strangers? They're not strangers. They're my neighbors. They're people who've supported me, who've referred customers to me, who've been there when I needed help. They're family. The silence stretched out. You know what? I said. I'll make you a deal. The same deal I give all my real family. What deal? I'll come over this weekend and assess the damage. I'll put together a plan to fix everything properly. Not just the deck, but all the other issues I noticed last time. The electrical, the roof, the driveway, everything. And I'll do it for free. I could hear her intake of breath. But, I continued, you have to do something first. What? You have to admit that you were wrong about my career. You have to acknowledge that I built something successful with the skills you told me were worthless. And you have to apologize for 6 years of treating me like a failure. Another long silence. That's blackmail, she said finally. No, I said. That's accountability. You want me to treat you like family? Then you need to start treating me like family first. We've always treated you like family. You've treated me like a disappointment who occasionally becomes useful. The conversation ended there. She hung up on me. I didn't hear from any of them for 2 months, which was actually pretty typical. The only difference was that this time, I knew they needed something from me and were choosing pride over practicality. Marcus finally cracked first. He called me on a Thursday evening in late summer. Look, he said without preamble. This situation with Mom and Dad is getting ridiculous. What situation? They're still dealing with the deck thing. They can't afford to hire another contractor, and they're too stubborn to apologize to you. Sounds like a them problem. It's becoming a family problem. They can't use their back door because the deck is unsafe to walk on. They're basically trapped in the house. And winter's coming. I hadn't considered that aspect. The deck connected to their kitchen door, their main entrance to the backyard and garage. They could use the front door, I said. Come on, man. You know that's not practical for groceries and stuff? He was right, but it still wasn't my problem to solve. What do you want me to do, Marcus? Just fix their deck. I'll help pay for it. We can work out some kind of payment plan. With what money? You're still paying off student loans. I'll figure something out. Look, maybe they were wrong about some things, but they're still our parents. Our parents who chose to insult my intelligence and capabilities for years. Okay, yes, they were wrong about that. You've obviously done well for yourself. It was the first time he'd ever admitted that. But they're never going to say that, he continued. You know how they are. They don't apologize. They just move on and pretend things are different. That's not how this works, Marcus. Works. You don't get to treat someone like garbage and then just to move on when you need their help. So what do you want? You want them to grovel? I want them to acknowledge reality. I want them to admit they were wrong. Not just about the deck, but about everything. About my career. About my choices. About my capabilities. And if they don't, then they can figure out their deck problem on their own. He hung up, frustrated. But I could tell he was starting to understand my position. The breakthrough came in October. Dad called me, which surprised me because he'd basically refused to speak to me directly since the deck bid situation. Son, he said, we need to talk. About what? About this situation we're in. Your mother and I have been discussing it, and we think maybe we've been stubborn. I waited. The truth is, he continued, we've been getting advice from friends about the deck situation, and everyone says the same thing. They say we should have trusted you from the beginning. Okay. And looking back, maybe we didn't give your business the respect it deserved. It was a start, but it wasn't enough. Dad, I said, what exactly are you saying? I'm saying we made mistakes. We should have supported you more when you were starting out. And we should have trusted your expertise when we needed the deck work done. And there was a long pause. And we were wrong about your career choice, he said finally. You've obviously built something successful. How successful? Another pause. More successful than we gave you credit for. I could tell this was killing him, but he needed to say it. Dad, I said, I'm going to ask you a direct question, and I need a direct answer. Okay. Do you respect what I do for a living? Silence. Do you believe that my skills have value? More silence. Yes, he said finally. I believe your skills have value. Do you regret telling me that welding wasn't a real profession? The longest pause yet. Yes, I regret saying that. It wasn't a complete apology, but it was more than I'd ever gotten from him before. All right, I said. I'll come over this weekend and take another look at the situation. When I showed up on Saturday morning, the dynamic was completely different. Instead of treating me like the disappointing son who'd finally agreed to help them out, they treated me like a professional contractor they'd hired to solve a problem. Mom had coffee ready and a list of questions about timeline and logistics. Dad had cleared a space in the garage for me to store materials. They both listened carefully as I explained what needed to be done and why. The deck situation was worse than I'd expected. The shoddy contractor hadn't just used wet lumber, he'd also skipped several critical structural elements. The footings were too shallow, the joist spacing was wrong, and the connection to the house wasn't properly flashed, which had allowed water damage to the siding. This is going to be expensive, I told them honestly. We're basically starting from scratch, plus we have to fix the water damage to the house. How expensive? Mom asked. I did the math. With materials, labor for my crew, and the additional structural work that was now necessary, we were looking at about $18,000. But, I continued, I'm going to do this one differently than my usual jobs. They both looked nervous. I'm going to do it myself on weekends, instead of using my crew during business hours. That saves you the labor markup. And I've got relationships with suppliers that can get us better pricing on materials. All in, we're probably looking at $12,000. That's very generous, Dad said. It's fair, I corrected. I'm not making money on this job, but I'm not losing money either. Over the next 6 weeks, I spent my Saturdays rebuilding their deck properly. It was actually relaxing, working with my hands on a smaller project without the pressure of deadlines and customer management. But more importantly, It gave us time to talk. Really talk. For the first time in years. I owe you an apology. Dad said one Saturday while we were setting the new footings. For what? For not believing in you. For thinking that college was the only path to success. I kept working, waiting for him to continue. I grew up different than you, he said. My dad worked construction, and he broke his body doing it. He always told me to get an education so I wouldn't have to work as hard as he did. When you said you wanted to learn a trade, I heard my father saying that college boys were soft, that real men worked with their hands. And you thought I was insulting your choices? Maybe, I don't know. All I know is I was wrong. You didn't choose welding because you couldn't handle college. You chose it because you knew what you were good at and you had a plan. And I've done well with it. You've done better than well. You own a business, you employ people, you have skills that are always in demand. That's more than a lot of people with college degrees can say. It wasn't a complete reconciliation, but it was a start. The project finished up right before Thanksgiving. The new deck was beautiful, better than anything they could have afforded from a regular contractor, because I'd used premium materials at cost and taken the time to do custom details that most contractors would charge extra for. But the real victory came the following week, when Dad called me with a different kind of request. Son, he said, we've got a neighbor who's been asking about your company. Their son is getting married next spring, and they want to have the reception in their backyard. They need some custom work done, a pergola, some built-in seating, that kind of thing. Okay, I said. I gave them your business card. I told them you do excellent work, and you're completely trustworthy. It was a small thing, but it represented a huge shift. For the first time in my adult life, my father was actively promoting my business instead of undermining it. I appreciate that, I said. There's one more thing, he added. Your mother wants to know if you'd be willing to come to Thanksgiving dinner this year. As a family. I thought about it. The old hurts were still there, but the dynamic had changed. They'd acknowledged my success. They'd apologized, in their way, and they'd treated me with respect during the deck project. Will Marcus be there? I asked. Yes. And will he be making jokes about blue-collar work or asking for career advice? Dad chuckled. I think Marcus has learned some things, too. His engineering career hasn't exactly gone according to plan, and watching you run your own business has been educational for him. I showed up to Thanksgiving dinner for the first time in 3 years. The house felt different, maybe because I'd just spent 6 weeks working on it, or maybe because the family dynamics had shifted. Marcus was there with his girlfriend Sarah, who I'd never met before. He'd finally found a stable engineering job that he liked, though it paid less than what I'd made as a second-year business owner. So, he said as we stood around in the kitchen while Mom finished cooking, I owe you an apology too. For what? For being a condescending asshole about your career choice. For thinking that my college degree made me smarter than you. And now? Now I realize that you were the smart one all along. You figured out what you were good at, you got trained in it efficiently, and you built a business around it. Meanwhile, I spent 4 years and $80,000 learning things I don't use in my actual job. College isn't worthless, I said. It's just not the only path to success. No, but trade school was definitely the right path for you, and probably would have been for me too, if I'm being honest. During dinner, something happened that had never happened before. My parents asked me about my work, not in the dismissive way they used to, but with genuine interest. How many employees do you have now? Mom asked. 8 full-time, plus I bring in specialists for certain projects. And they all know welding? Some do. But we do more than just welding now. We're a full-service fabrication and repair company. Custom architectural metalwork, industrial equipment repair, specialized construction projects. That sounds complicated, Dad said. It is. That's why there's good money in it. Most contractors won't take on projects that require custom solutions. Speaking of money, Marcus said, if you don't mind me asking, how well has the business done? It was a question they'd never asked before, and I wasn't sure how to answer it without sounding like I was bragging. Well enough that I'm not worried about student loan payments, I said, glancing at Marcus. Damn, he said, laughing. That's better than most people with college degrees. After dinner, Dad pulled me aside. Dad, I have something for you, he said, handing me an envelope. Inside was a check for $12,000, exactly what I'd charged them for the deck work. Dad, I said, we already settled this. No, we settled the cost of materials and your time. This is different. What do you mean? This is 6 years of Christmas and birthday presents that we should have given you but didn't, because we were too proud to admit we were wrong about your choices. I looked at the check, then at him. I don't need your money, Dad. I know you don't. That's not why I'm giving it to you. I'm giving it to you because you're my son. and I should have been supporting you all along instead of waiting until I needed something from you. And if I hadn't been successful, would you still be apologizing? He thought about that. Probably not, he said honestly. And that makes me even more wrong than I thought. It's been 3 years since that Thanksgiving, and my relationship with my family has completely transformed. Not perfect. There's still some residual awkwardness from those years of conflict, but functional and respectful. My business is doing better than ever. We're up to 12 employees now, and we're booked solid through next summer. I've been able to buy out 2 smaller competitors, and we're looking at expanding into commercial HVAC work. Marcus ended up leaving engineering entirely. He's working as a project manager for a residential construction company, and he's much happier than he ever was trying to make his degree work for him. He still has student loan debt, but he's making progress on it. My parents have become my biggest advocates. They brag about my business to their friends, refer customers to me, and actually seem proud of what I've accomplished. Dad has started telling people that I'm the successful entrepreneur in the family. You don't even act like a man, my dad said. So I stopped funding the freeloaders and walked out on the entire family, and now they are blowing my phone with calls. Hey everyone! Before we jump into today's video, I need your help. We've noticed the channel is losing some traction, and subscribing is one of the best ways you can support us. It's quick, free, and it helps us keep bringing you awesome content. Your support means the world. Let's keep this channel growing together. Thanks so much. Now let's start the video. Hey guys! You know those nature documentaries where parasites slowly drain the life out of their hosts until there's nothing left but a hollow shell? Yeah, that was my family biography for the last 6 years. Only difference is, the parasite usually doesn't text you at 2 a.m. asking for just one more transfer to cover their third emergency that month. So the thing is, I've always been the reliable one in my family. The guy everyone calls when shit hits the fan, the one with the steady job, the savings account, and apparently an invisible sign on my forehead that says free money. I, 29 male, graduated with an engineering degree 6 years ago and landed a decent job right out of college. Nothing crazy. I'm not a tech bro making Silicon Valley money or anything, but solid enough that I could afford a decent apartment, keep my bills paid, and still put some away each month. Pretty basic adult shit, right? My younger sister, 26 female though, complete opposite. She dropped out of college after changing her major 4 times, then spent the next few years finding herself through a series of minimum wage jobs she could never keep for more than a few months. Girl has the work ethic of a stone sloth. When she got evicted from her apartment 3 years ago, shocker, my parents called me in a panic. It's just until she finds her feet, they said. Just help her out this once, they said. But it was not just this once. What started as a one-time bailout turned into a never-ending cycle of rent payments, bill coverage, and emergency cash transfers. I'm not talking small amounts either. Here's a breakdown of the last year alone. $1,400 a month for her rent, $16,800 a year, $350 per month for her utilities, $4,200, $2,000 for her car repairs that she somehow needed despite barely driving to work, $1,200 for her emergency dental work, which was totally preventable, $800 for her credit card minimum payments, because why pay your own bills when your brother will? That's $24,000 plus in 1 year. Almost half my take-home pay funneled straight to my deadbeat sister. And every time I tried to have a conversation about how this arrangement needed to end, I'd get the same guilt trip from my dad. A real man takes care of his family, he'd say. Your grandfather worked 3 jobs to keep food on the table. Cool story, Dad. Did Grandpa also bankroll a fully capable adult who refused to get her shit together? Because I'm pretty sure he didn't. The worst part? My sister's Instagram is a non-stop highlight reel of brunches, beach trips, and new outfits. She buys $200 shoes and posts about weekend getaways, while I'm grinding 60-hour weeks to support 2 households. Meanwhile, I've been putting off buying a house, rarely take vacations, and my social life's been on life support since I'm always working. My friends have started calling me the Bank of James, that's me, as a joke. Except it's not funny when it's your reality. But the real slap in the face was when I caught her explaining to her roommate how she manages her finances by, and I quote, just asking my brother whenever I need anything. I overheard this gem when I stopped by to drop off her car payment. Again, she didn't even have the decency to look embarrassed when she realized I was standing there. Why did I put up with it for so long? Honestly, it was easier than fighting. I'd say no. They'd guilt trip me. I'd give in. Rinse and repeat. Plus, I was doing well enough at my job that I could afford it, even if it meant postponing my own goals and dreams. I had plans, you know? I wanted to buy a house with a garage where I could set up a woodworking shop. I've been into carpentry since high school, and I'd been dreaming about having my own space to build furniture. I also bought a vintage 1978 Honda CB750 motorcycle back in college that I've been meaning to restore. It's been sitting under a tarp for 3 years because every time I saved up enough to start the project, my sister would have some new emergency. But things changed last month when my aunt, my dad's sister, split with her husband and moved in with my parents. Suddenly, I wasn't just supporting my sister, I was expected to chip in for the renovations to accommodate my aunt, because apparently a spare bedroom needed converting, and only with premium fixtures and custom furniture would do. My dad called one Tuesday night while I was working late. We need about $4,000 for the contractor. Your mother thinks you should handle it since your sister is, still getting established. Getting established at 26, after 3 years of me paying her bills. Something in me just clicked. It wasn't even the amount, though $4,000 isn't exactly pocket change. It was the casual entitlement. The assumption that my money was family money, while my sister's money was her money. The complete lack of awareness that I might have my own plans for my hard-earned cash. That was when I decided enough was enough. That Sunday, I headed to my parents for our monthly family dinner. I spent the drive rehearsing what I was going to say, while simultaneously working on my garage renovation plans in my head. The one project for myself I'd been planning for months. My own little man cave with a workbench for my woodworking projects, space for my gaming setup, and room cleared out for the next phase. Finally restoring that vintage motorcycle. The same project I delayed 3 times already, because my sister needed money for something urgent, like that festival she just had to attend, or the new iPhone because her perfectly functional older model wasn't cute anymore. When I arrived, everyone was already seated. My parents, my sister, and now my aunt. Dad was mid-rant about kids these days, having no work ethic, completely oblivious to the irony of saying this with his unemployed daughter sitting right there. My sister was scrolling through her phone, probably making another ASOS order with the money I sent her for utilities. I loaded my plate with pot roast and sat down quietly, trying to keep my blood pressure in check. The conversation flowed around me, my aunt talking about her divorce, my mom discussing neighborhood gossip, my sister occasionally looking up from her phone to complain about some perceived slight from her roommate. Before he even got to the money, Dad was already mid-rant about how men these days are soft as tissue paper. You know what the problem is with your generation? He grumbled to no one in particular. Too fragile, no backbone. My father worked himself to the bone without whining about boundaries or mental health. He didn't need a damn man cave to feel strong. He just handled shit. He looked directly at me like the whole rant was aimed squarely at my spine. Then hit me with, "So, I was telling your aunt how you're helping with the renovation costs." I looked up from my food, making eye contact with him. Am I? The table got quiet. My mom jumped in, her voice overly cheerful. Well, of course, we discussed this. The contractor needs the deposit by Tuesday. No, I said, stabbing a potato with more force than necessary. Dad mentioned it. I never agreed. My sister finally looked up from her phone, rolling her eyes. Don't be stingy. It's not like you don't have the money. That was it. The final freaking straw. I set down my fork with a clatter that made my aunt jump. You know what? You're right. I do have money. Because I work for it. I budget. I make sacrifices. My dad scoffed. Here we go with the lecture. No lecture, I cut him off. Just clarity. I'm done. My sister let out an exaggerated sigh. Done with what? Done being everyone's ATM. I looked her straight in the eye. Your rent? Your bills? Your car insurance? That's on you now. She laughed like I was joking. I wasn't. Dad slammed his hand on the table. You don't even act like a man anymore. He pointed his fork at me like it was a damn spear. A real man sacrifices. A real man doesn't whine when his family needs him. You think your grandfather ever cried about needing space or boundaries? He just got shit done. You're damn right I don't act like your version of a man. Because that guy ignores his own needs until he burns out. That guy lets everyone bleed him dry and calls it duty. I interrupted, surprising even myself with how calm I sounded. Being a man doesn't mean funding your bad decisions. It means having boundaries. And I'm setting mine now. This is ridiculous, my mom chimed in. After everything we've done for you, what exactly have you done for me lately? I asked. Because from where I'm sitting, I've been carrying this family financially for years, while everyone takes and takes and takes. My aunt shifted uncomfortably in her seat, clearly wishing she was anywhere else. Good. Let her see the family dynamics she'd walked into. My sister's expression shifted from amusement to panic as she realized I wasn't backing down. But my rent is due next week. I don't have enough. Not my problem. What am I supposed to do? She demanded, voice rising. Get a job? Keep a job? Budget? Live within your means? All the things adults are supposed to do? She slammed her hand on the table. I've been trying. Bullshit. Same old story. I paid bills. You bought bikinis. That's not fair. I need those things for my mental health. I had to laugh at that. And what about my mental health? You think I enjoy working myself to death to support you? My dad pushed his chair back. That's enough. We're family. And family supports each other. Period. Funny how that support only seems to flow in one direction, I replied. When's the last time any of you supported me? My mother's face crumpled into that manipulative, sad expression I knew all too well. How can you say that? We've always been there for you. Being there for me would mean respecting me enough not to treat me like a walking wallet. I stood up, grabbed my jacket from the back of my chair, and headed for the door. I was done with dinner and done with this conversation. My mom called after me. You can't just walk out on family? I turned around one last time, making sure to look each of them in the eye. Watch me. And I walked out, slamming the door behind me. The sound was so freaking satisfying I can't even tell you. The fallout was immediate and intense. I hadn't even made it to my car before my phone started blowing up. Texts from my sister ranged from pleading to threatening. You can't be serious. I'll be homeless. You're such an asshole. Please, I'm sorry, just help with rent this month. Mom and dad are freaking out. I'll kill myself and it'll be your fault. That last one, yeah, she went there. Classic emotional manipulation. She'd threatened self-harm before when she didn't get her way, but I'd later find out from mutual friends that she was just fine, usually out partying the same night. I silenced my phone, cranked up some Metallica on the car stereo, and drove home with the windows down. For the first time in years, I felt light. Like I'd been carrying this massive weight for so long, I'd forgotten what it was like to stand up straight. When I got to my apartment, I did something I hadn't done in forever. I played video games without checking my phone every 5 minutes to see if my sister needed something. Just a solid 3 hours of killing zombies and not giving a freak. The next day, I took a personal day from work. Instead of answering the 27 missed calls, not exaggerating, I counted them. I went to Home Depot and bought supplies for my garage project. While picking out power tools, my dad called again. I declined. Then my mom. Declined. Then my sister from a number I didn't recognize. Sneaky, but not sneaky enough. I spent the day setting up my workbench, organizing my tools, and mapping out where my gaming rig would go. Phase 1 was done. Next up, that bike's long overdue comeback. I ordered pizza, cranked up some music, and lost myself in the joy of finally doing something for me. My phone kept buzzing, but with each ignored call, the weight on my shoulders lifted a little more. Around 6 p.m., someone started pounding on my door like they were trying to break it down. I looked through the peephole to see my sister. Mascara streaked down her face, looking like she'd just stepped out of a telenovela. I opened the door but blocked the entrance with my body. What? 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 You know what? She tried to push past me into my apartment. I didn't move. You need to fix this, she demanded, finally giving up and stepping back. There's nothing to fix. The situation is exactly as it should be. She pushed past me anyway and stormed into my living room. I sighed and closed the door, mentally preparing for the theatrical performance that was about to unfold. My landlord says if I'm late on rent again, he's evicting me, she wailed, pacing back and forth. Sounds like a problem you created, I replied, leaning against the wall with my arms crossed. So you're just going to let me be homeless? What kind of brother does that? The kind who's tired of being used. She switched tactics, her voice softening as she approached me. Look, I know I've relied on you a lot, but I'm trying. I've got a job interview next week at this really promising startup and you've been trying for 3 years, I said, making air quotes. I've heard all this before. The amazing job that's just around the corner. The career opportunity that's going to change everything. Then nothing happens and your hand is out again. This time is different, she insisted, her eyes wide with what I'm sure she thought was sincerity. They really liked my resume and the pay is great. I just need a little more time to... Time's up, I said flatly. Figure it out yourself. Her face hardened, the fake vulnerability vanishing in an instant. You know what? Dad's right. You're not a real man. A real man wouldn't abandon his family. I had to laugh at that. A real man isn't a doormat. A real man has self-respect. F you, she spat, grabbing her designer purse that I probably paid for. When I'm living on the street, I hope you feel good about yourself. As she stormed toward the door, I called after her. There's always mom and dad's couch, or maybe get a roommate, or crazy thought, an actual job. The door slammed so hard, my framed diploma fell off the wall and the glass cracked. Symbolic, I thought. I went back to organizing my tools with a smile on my face. Later that night, the texts from my parents started rolling in. Dad, your sister is hysterical. What did you say to her? Mom, we raised you better than this. Dad, call me. Now. Mom, your sister loves you. How can you be so cruel? I didn't respond to any of them. Instead, I ordered the parts I needed for my motorcycle restoration project. The total came to about $600, less than half of what I'd been paying for my sister's rent each month. The realization was both liberating and infuriating. Crazy what you can afford when you're not bankrolling someone's highlight reel. That weekend was the first in years that I didn't get a frantic call about some financial emergency. I kept expecting it, honestly. That Pavlovian response was hard to shake, but when Sunday evening rolled around and my phone hadn't blown up once, well, with actual emergencies, the guilt trip text didn't count. I realized something important. There had never been that many real emergencies. They just trained me to treat their wants as needs. I slept better that night than I had in months. 3 days into my new no more handouts policy, my parents showed up unannounced at my apartment. It was a Wednesday evening, and I'd just gotten home from work. I saw my dad's car pull into my building's parking lot through my living room window. For a brief moment, I considered pretending I wasn't home. But no, I was done hiding. I was done avoiding confrontation. This was my apartment, paid for with my money, and I had nothing to be ashamed of. My mom carried a grocery bag like some peace offering. Classic manipulation tactic. Bring food so I can't just turn them away without looking like an asshole. We brought dinner, she said, forcing a smile that didn't reach her eyes. Can we talk? I let them in, mostly because I was curious about their approach. Would it be more guilt-tripping? Threats? Promises to change that would never materialize? All of the above? We sat at my kitchen table, the grocery bag untouched between us. My dad cleared his throat, adjusting his position like he was about to deliver a practice speech. Your sister is in real trouble, he began, his tone serious. Her landlord gave her until Friday to pay up or get out. I took a sip of water, keeping my expression neutral. And she doesn't have the money. My mom jumped in, her voice rising. She's applied for jobs, but nothing's come through yet. She's had 3 years to figure this out, I replied, setting my glass down carefully. What's she been doing all this time? My dad shifted uncomfortably in his chair. That's not the point. The point is she needs help now. No, that is the point. I've been helping for years, and nothing's changed because there's been no reason for anything to change. She doesn't need help. She needs consequences. My mom's eyes welled up with tears. Classic move. So, you're just going to let her suffer? I'm letting her experience the results of her choices. There's a difference. She's your sister, my mom pressed. Family sticks together through thick and thin. Funny, I don't remember her sticking with me when I was working overtime to pay her bills. In fact, I distinctly remember her making fun of me for being boring and working too much while she was out living her best life on my dime. They exchanged a look. Then my dad leaned forward, switching tactics. Look, we understand you're frustrated, but this isn't just about your sister. Your aunt is settling in, and the contractor needs that deposit. I stood up so quickly my chair nearly tipped over. Seriously? You're still trying to get money for the renovation? After everything I just said? He had the decency to look embarrassed, but only for a moment. Family helps family. That's how it works. No, that's how you think it works. In my world, adults handle their own responsibilities. My mom tried a different angle. Just this one last time. Help your sister with this month's rent and we won't ask again. I actually laughed at that. You said that last month, and the month before, and probably the month before that, but I've lost track of all the last times at this point. This is different, my dad insisted. She's really trying this time. Then prove it, I said. Show me the job applications she's filled out. Show me a budget she's made. Show me any evidence at all that she's really trying beyond just saying the words. They looked at each other again, clearly not expecting this response. Well, I pressed. My dad's patience snapped. What do you even need all that money for anyway? Those stupid projects in your garage? That motorcycle that'll probably kill you? And there it was. The real resentment. They weren't just entitled to my money. They were angry I might spend it on myself. Those stupid projects are mine. My time, my money, my life. So selfish, my mom muttered, not quite under her breath. I laughed again, but there was no humor in it. Selfish? I've given you people over $30,000 in the last 3 years. The selfish ones are sitting right here in my kitchen. My dad stood up, face flushed with anger. We raised you better than this. No, you raised me to be your backup plan. That's done now. They left without touching the groceries they'd brought. As the door closed behind them, I heard my dad say, "He'll come around. He always does." He couldn't have been more wrong. The next phase of the pressure campaign began the following day. My phone started blowing up with calls from extended family members. Aunts, uncles, cousins I barely spoke to. Apparently, my parents had activated the family phone tree, painting me as the villain who was leaving his poor sister to starve on the streets. My aunt, a different one, not the newly divorced one, left a voicemail. I've always thought of you as a compassionate young man. I'm very disappointed to hear you're abandoning your sister in her time of need. My uncle texted, "Family is all we have in this world. Don't turn your back on yours." Even my grandmother called, her voice quavering with what I'm sure she thought was righteous concern. "Your grandfather would be so ashamed if he could see how you're behaving." That one stung a little. I'd been close to my grandpa, but then I remembered that he'd worked hard his whole life to provide for his family, not to enable laziness. He'd taught me the value of self-reliance, not endless handouts. I responded to each relative the same way. "This is between me and my immediate family. Thanks for your concern." Then I blocked them too. My cousin Jake was the only one who reached out to actually hear my side. "Dude, what's going on? Your mom called my mom crying about how you've abandoned the family or some dramatic shit." I gave him the abbreviated version. His response? "About effing time, man. They've been bleeding you dry for years." It was validating to hear that at least one person in the family could see the situation clearly. The worst part of the pressure campaign was when they started showing up at my workplace. My sister came by during lunch one day, making a scene in the lobby until security escorted her out. My mom happened to be shopping at the grocery store across from my office and spotted me coming out after work. I started varying my routes, keeping my schedule unpredictable, and using the back entrance to my building. It was exhausting, but I held firm. Each attempt to manipulate me only reinforced that I'd made the right decision. A week passed. My sister got evicted, just like her landlord threatened. She moved onto my parents' couch, which quickly created exactly the tension I expected. My aunt, apparently, was less than thrilled about sharing the house with my unemployed sister and her mountain of belongings. From what I heard, through Jake, who remained my only family connection, the house had devolved into a war zone of passive-aggressive comments and slammed doors. "Dude, your sister moved in with your parents, and it's World War III over here," Jake texted. "Aunt Carol is threatening to leave. Your mom is stress baking nonstop. There's like 12 casseroles in the fridge." Good. Let them deal with the monster they created. Meanwhile, I was thriving. I finished the first phase of my garage renovation, installed my gaming setup, and started working on my motorcycle. 3 years under a tarp. And now, finally, it was time to bring it back to life. I'd forgotten how much I enjoyed tinkering with engines. The methodical process of taking something apart, cleaning each component, and putting it back together. For the first time in years, I was spending my money on things that mattered to me. I'd also started going out more, reconnecting with friends I'd neglected while working overtime to support my sister. We hit up a local bar one Saturday night, and I actually bought a round for everyone instead of checking my bank balance first. A small thing, but it felt huge to me. Then my phone rang with an unfamiliar number. Normally, I'd ignore it, assuming it was another family member trying to get through my blocks. But I answered. "Hello, this is Northeast Credit Union calling about your sister's car loan. You're listed as a co-signer, and the account is 60 days past due." Shit, I'd forgotten about that. 2 years ago, I co-signed her car loan because she needed reliable transportation for job interviews. The same job interviews that never materialized into actual employment. "How much is overdue?" I asked, already dreading the answer. $1,240, including late fees. If the loan defaulted, my credit would take a hit. Credit I'd need for the house I was planning to buy, now that I wasn't supporting an extra adult. My phone pinged with a text from my sister. "Got a call from the bank? Bet you'll help me now." This wasn't an oversight. This wasn't her forgetting a payment in the chaos of being evicted. This was strategic. She was holding my credit score hostage. Two could play that game. I called the bank back. "I want to pay off the balance of the loan and transfer the title solely to my name." The representative sounded confused. "Sir, I co-signed the loan. I'm taking ownership of the vehicle. How much to clear the entire balance?" $8,720.16. "Process it today, and I want the title transferred immediately." It was a lot of money, but less than I'd spend supporting her for another 6 months. And unlike the money I'd been giving her, this was an investment. I'd either keep the car as a second vehicle or sell it and recoup most of the cost. An hour later, my sister called, screaming so loudly I had to hold the phone away from my ear. "They're taking my car? How could you?" "Not taking. Took. It's my car now, since I paid for it. I need that car." She was practically hyperventilating. "Should have made the payments then. Where am I supposed to go? How am I supposed to get to job interviews?" The irony of that excuse again wasn't lost on me. Public transportation exists. So does Uber. So do friends who might give you rides. If you have any left who aren't sick of your freeloading, you're the worst person I've ever known. Her voice had gone cold, which was actually a relief after the screaming. "And yet I'm the one you kept asking for money. Funny how that works." I hung up and blocked her number. Then I texted Jake. "Tell her the car will be picked up tomorrow at 2 p.m. If she damages it, I'm pressing charges." The next day, I had the car towed from my parents' driveway to my house, where it parked beside my long-shelved motorcycle. Both now officially mine, both finally where they belonged. I didn't actually need a second vehicle, but I'd rather sell it than let her use my credit to hold onto it. Message sent. I'm not playing games anymore. My parents' response was swift and predictable. More angry calls, more flying monkeys dispatched to make me feel guilty. But something had shifted. Where before I'd felt anxious and conflicted about standing up to them, now I just felt amused. The more outrageous their attempts to manipulate me became, the more certain I was that I'd made the right choice. My sister, surprisingly, was the first to crack. 3 days after I took the car, she sent an email, since I'd blocked her number. I'm sorry for what I said. I was upset. Can we please talk? I really am trying to get my life together. I have a job interview tomorrow and I need my car back. I replied with one line, show me 6 months of self-sufficiency and we'll talk. She didn't respond. 2 weeks later, Jake texted me a photo of my sister's new Facebook post. First day at the new job. So excited to start this journey. It was a retail position at the mall. Minimum wage, probably part-time. Not exactly career material, but it was something. More than she'd done in years. I felt a twinge of, not guilt exactly. Pride, maybe? That she was finally doing what she should have been doing all along. But I wasn't ready to let my guard down yet. 1 week of employment didn't erase 3 years of manipulation. After that car incident, my parents launched a full family pressure campaign. Aunts, uncles, cousins. Suddenly everyone had an opinion about how I should step up and help my struggling sister. I received long, detailed voicemails from relatives I hadn't spoken to in years, explaining why family comes first and how disappointed they were in me. My response was simple and consistent. This is between me and my immediate family. Thanks for your concern. Then I blocked them too. And yeah, 2 months passed. According to Jake, my sister was still working at her retail job. Some kind of record for her. She'd found a roommate situation that she could actually afford on her income. My parents had stopped trying to contact me after I sent them a certified letter stating that any further unannounced visits would be considered trespassing. I sold her car, my car, legally, and used the money to finish my garage renovation and take a weekend trip to the mountains. My first actual vacation in 3 years. I hiked during the day and sat around a campfire with friends at night, not checking my phone every 5 minutes for financial emergencies. It was fudging glorious. When I got back, there was a letter waiting for me. No return address, but I recognized my mom's handwriting. I almost threw it away unopened, but curiosity won out. Inside was a single page. We need to talk. Your father borrowed money against the house to help your sister stay afloat after you abandoned her. We're behind on payments. Please call us. I stared at the letter for a long time, a mix of emotions washing over me. Anger that they were still trying to make me feel responsible. Frustration that they'd made such a stupid financial decision. But mostly, a strange sense of clarity. This confirmed everything I'd suspected. They'd been using me as their financial safety net for so long that when I cut them off, they had no backup plan. Instead of forcing my sister to stand on her own feet, they doubled down on enabling her, and now they were paying the price. Not my circus, not my monkeys. I didn't respond. A week later, another letter arrived. The bank called about the mortgage. We might lose the house. Is that what you want? Your parents homeless? I stared at this one even longer, then typed out a text to my mom's number. The first direct communication I'd initiated in months. Being a man doesn't mean funding your bad decisions. It means having boundaries. This is yours. Then I blocked her number too. That night, I sat in my completed garage workshop, beer in hand, looking at my motorcycle, now fully restored and gleaming under the LED lights I'd installed. On the wall hung the framed first dollar I'd earned at my engineering job. Beside it was a new addition, a printout of my investment account, showing the money I'd saved in just 2 months of not bankrolling my family. Enough for a down payment on my own house. I took a photo and posted it to my new, family-free Instagram account with the caption, "Freedom isn't free, but damn, it's worth every penny." For the first time in my adult life, I wasn't dreading a phone call, wasn't calculating how someone else's emergency would impact my budget, wasn't postponing my dreams to fund someone else's entitlement. I was just free. The epilogue to this story is still being written. Jake tells me my sister is still working, has been promoted to shift manager, and is actually paying her own bills. My parents had to take out a second mortgage, but managed to keep the house. My aunt eventually moved out, tired of the drama. Dad still won't speak to me, but Mom sent a card on my birthday. No apology, just a generic thinking of you message. Baby steps, I guess. As for me, I've started dating again. Turns out women appreciate a guy who isn't constantly stressed about money. The best part? About a week ago, I bumped into my sister at a coffee shop. We locked eyes. Awkward. Tense. I half expected her to turn around or throw some snark, but instead she walked over. She looked different, calmer, more put together, like someone who'd finally started dealing with her own mess instead of dumping it on someone else. She said she was still mad at me. I told her I wasn't sorry, and for the first time, she didn't argue. She just nodded, almost like she understood. No hug, no dramatic reunion, no fake promises to stay in touch. Just before walking out, she turned around and thanked me for not covering her rent. It wasn't an apology, not exactly, but it was the closest she's ever come. Letting family fail might feel cruel in the moment, but sometimes it's the only way they learn to survive without dragging you down. And I still don't regret a thing.